The Fourth Great War has ended with the Alliance victorious and Naruto hailed as the hero of the elemental nations, and a better peace was archived through true understanding. Madara was defeated, but Sasuke ran away once again like the little coward that he is, still plotting revenge on not only our blonde hero but also on the village that he defected from, but we'll get into that here in a minute. The war ended with a fairly large amount of casualties but very few fatalities. There were many among the ranks that will never be ninja again, but by some miracle none of the Konoha 11 inches or any of Naruto's precious people were seriously injured in the fighting. For the next 6 months after the war, Naruto trained hard, determined to bring Sasuke back to the village. He may have severely injured his former comrade in their last fight, but through interference by the remains of Team Hawk and Sakura's pleading not to kill him, Naruto was distracted enough for Sasuke to blindside him and use an area-wide genjutsu that allowed him to escape. After that event, Naruto threw himself into his training. Realizing that his lack of focus and his knowledge of basics and advanced tactical thinking was lacking in every way, he proceeded to go back to the basics. Requesting help from Iruka, he got his academy studies to the point that if he was getting ready to graduate he would have been Rookie of the Year. He raided the Konoha library for any and all information he could find. He studied the laws of the village to the point that he knew them by heart and took as much instruction from anyone that was willing to train him. He still has a low tolerance to genjutsu, but he figured he probably always would. Tsunade took him as an additional apprentice once she learned that the blonde was studying the laws of the village. She did this to prep him for taking the position of Hokage. This was received well by the general population but not so well by the civilian side of the council. They still held fear of the boy even after all that he had done. Of course, it didn't help matters that for years prior to Naruto becoming the hero that he was always meant to be, both Madara and Orochimaru had been sneaking around the village and implanting different fail-safes to destroy the village in case their other plans failed. Danzo discovered these subtle different commands in the general populace and used this to his advantage. By changing these commands to suit his agenda, he was able to add his own fail-safes to rid the village of the demon, for its own protection, if he was ever killed. In his own twisted way, he felt that only he could control the power of the Nine Tails correctly. His reasoning behind all this: if he couldn't have the village and that power, then no one would be able to. These commands caused the goodwill that Naruto had been enjoying to start to slowly change to an even greater hatred than he was subjected to before. Once his training was completed, the very subtle commands started to take hold, but no one really started to notice it until he brought back the precious Uchiha. That wasn't much of a fight in and of itself though. Naruto used his sage abilities and massive stores of chakra to track the traitorous bastard to Rice Country. He then used his shadow clones and his pranking skills, which he adapted to use with his new knowledge of tactics, and completely decimated all the Tamiz guards and other allies without alerting anyone to his presence until it was too late. He made his way through the compound to find the little prick and finally, using a mixture of stealth, cunning and a lot of different knockout poisons, courtesy of his training with Anko, captured the bastard without even throwing a single punch. Of course, in his haste to finally get him home, he made a very big mistake. He left the village without official permission, and this triggered the subliminal commands placed on the people of the village to kick into full. Upon returning to his home with the unconscious asshole, he was immediately arrested and sent to Tsunade's office. The said asshole was taken to the hospital but was kept under close guard until his sentencing was carried out. Ba-chan, why am I being arrested? What did I do wrong? I know I left the village without permission, but I had a really good reason. I was done with what I had to get done, and I was able to track the Teme and knew I could bring him back once and for all. Besides, you agreed that once I was done, I could go after him again," stated a very confused blonde. He just didn't understand what was happening, or why when he was being paraded through the streets that the looks were back, but now it was worse than it had ever been before. With a very sad expression and tears in her eyes, Tsunade, the fifth Hokage, said, "I'm sorry Naruto, but there was nothing I could do. Once you left the village, the elders along with the civilians went over my head and informed the Fire Lord that you had gone missing nin. With the recent changes to the village system, missing nins are no longer tolerated in any way. I was able to stop your execution but not your banishment. I'm so sorry." "What? I'm being banished? What the fuck? They can't do that. Even with the changes to the laws, there are still provisions that allow for extenuating circumstances. Besides, I had your permission to leave once I completed my training. Screamed a very shocked Naruto. I know, okay, she replied with tears streaming down her face. They changed the laws right after it was confirmed you weren't in the village and it became known that you were going after Sasuke. Those old bastards were able to get around the system because of Danzo's machinations. After a thorough examination of the laws that were cited, there was no room for appeal. He had it all set up that if you had ever left the village without the express written consent of both the council and the Hokage, that you were to be labeled as a missing nin and were to be executed or banished depending on the length of time you were gone. He probably was hoping to capture you right after you were sent out of the village so he could put you into his rude anbu, but because he's dead now that won't happen. But, why? I saved the village and stopped that damn war with Madara. Why would they do this to me? I didn't do anything wrong. At this point he was in tears as well, and the anger was starting to boil within his soul. The only thing that prevented him from using the Kyuubi's chakra was the 5-pronged seal the Anbu hit him with right when he entered the village. It also didn't help matters that before he was brought before the leader of the village they had placed suppression seals all over his body. No matter what I do, it's never good enough for this fucking place. Fuck him. I'm done. They have taken Dad's gift and shit on me at every turn they possibly could. No more. The only reason I'm not out there destroying this god-forsaken place is because of my friends. I'll just go to a different village and live there, he thinks to himself. Wiping the tear from his eyes, he looks back at the woman he has loved as a mother with the deadest eyes anyone has ever seen and responds, how long do I have until I have to leave, and what about the Teme? What are they going to do with him? Well, there is more bad news. Great, what now? Naruto interrupts. Tsunade continues without acknowledging the interruption. You were given only 3 days to leave the village or face execution, and they also made it a provision that you are to have your chakra sealed. Also, to make matters worse, you are forbidden to join any other hidden village or take jobs for any ninja or ninja group again. They threatened that if you are helped in any way by any member of the village, that all those that assist you will be executed on sight and without trial. As far as the Uchiha goes, since all the decrees that Danzo made while in his short term as the Hokage were revoked, Sasuke was never declared a missing nin. He won't get out of punishment, though, I can promise you that. So in other words, not only are they finally getting what they have been trying to do for the last 17 years, but they are also holding all of my friend hostage to get me to comply with their orders. This is really fucking wrong, Ba-chan. After that statement, Shizune knocked on the door to inform her that Sasuke has awakened. Tsunade informs Naruto that he is to remain in the office and is not to leave until she returns. She then leaves and heads to the hospital to deal with the scum. Upon entering Sasuke's room, she sees he is livid. He demands to be released, but of course he is refused. Tsunade proceeds to explain the situation he is in, but of course he just laughs. You see, during the 6 months Naruto was training, Sasuke was coming up with a plan to destroy the village from the inside and to kill Naruto. While under the tutelage of both the snake and the first village trader, he came upon the messages that they had been placed in the minds of the people. The strongest one was because of Madara. Uchiha is the strongest and at no time is the last of the clan to be denied anything. The raven-haired trader then thought of a way to use this to his advantage. Even though those commands were in place, he knew they would not affect the current Hokage, so he developed a backstory similar to what his brother Itachi had. He claimed that he was ordered by the Sandaime to infiltrate Orochimaru's base after the seal had been placed. Hell, the little shit had found a way to so completely infuse this false information into his mind that not even a Yamanaka could discredit this claim. Smirking with that same cocky attitude he always had, he then proceeded to offer himself for a full battery of scans to confirm or deign his claims. He stated that it was a hands operation and he was only allowed to return to the village after, and I quote, "The snake has been dealt with and any other threats were gone." Then and only then was he allowed to return to the village. Well, he figured that he could continue with his mission when Madara found him. He also stated that he knew of several other threats out there but was not willing to give the information. Of course Tsunade didn't believe him, but as luck had it, both the elders were outside of the room and demanded he be scanned to show his innocence. Before she could respond, an Anbu appeared informing them that a council meeting had been called and she was to attend, as well as Sasuke and Naruto. Once the said parties had arrived, Sasuke without any prompting proceeded to explain what he had said to Tsunade and demanded to be examined right here and now. Inoichi, Being the only one there that could do such a thing sought permission from his leader. She nodded and he began. Of course he was going to confirm Sasuke's claim because he couldn't search past the genjutsu-induced memories. It also didn't help that the smirking bastard placed extra seals on his mind to allow him to control anyone that looked into the memories. So thus began the crime that could not be forgiven. Naruto on the other hand was brought up on even more charges other than being a missing nin. He was charged with assault on a fellow Leaf nin while said nin was in the process of carrying out his official duty. This didn't go over very well with the ninja side of the council, but there wasn't anything that could be done seeing as the proof was undeniable. Once again they pushed for the death penalty, but Tsunade quickly refused this and stated that any current crimes Naruto was said to have committed were under the assumption that Sasuke had abandoned his village, and as per the law any nin that has the will and the opportunity to return said suspect is to do so. So they upped his banishment date. Naruto only had 2 days to leave the village instead of 3, but before he was allowed to leave to attend to his personal affairs he was to have his chakras sealed under penalty of death for refusal. The whole time this was going on Sasuke was laughing silently, thinking this will be the perfect opportunity for him to start his revenge. With the blonde doob out of the picture he would once again become the favored son and he could become the next Hokage. Then he would be free to have his ex-teammate silently killed before bringing this disgusting place to its knees for what they had done to his family. Well, his plan was working so far, but things don't always work out the way they are planned. Naruto submitted to the ceiling without a word or whimper. After everything was done he left for his home intent on packing and leaving that night before anything else could happen. Of course Tsunade wasn't going to take this lightly, even though she brought up the fact Naruto is the son of the fourth and the bloody red Habanero. This didn't sway them. So instead she came up with her own plans. After the busty Hokage left in a rage she began to think how best to get the most out of the situation. After she sent all Anbu away and sat alone she began to think for a minute. Those fuckers want to get rid of the only family I have left, huh? Well, that's fine. Not only will I slowly bankrupt this hellhole, but I will also make sure that everything that is Naruto's is given to him. Her resolve firm she proceeded with her plan and began to seal off the room to prevent any noise or interruptions from happening. Using her position as Hokage she then proceeded to cash in both Jiraiya's and Naruto's family's wealth. She had become the executor of both estates once the old perv had died until Naruto was 18. Then she opened the hidden vault located behind the pictures of the previous Hokages and started to seal all the contents into a scroll. These included all of Jiraiya's belongings, Minato's and Kushina's as well, plus all the scrolls for all their jutsu. Nothing was left to be found after she was done. After summoning one of her slugs, she instructed it to divide itself and go with Naruto. She knew the boy so well by now. She knew this had broken him and he was going to leave soon, if not tonight for that matter. She gave the other scroll to the other slug and ordered it to go back home for a total of 1 week and then to summon itself to the location that the other is. Nodding, both went about their instructions quickly and silently. Tsunade then began to write a long letter to her favorite blonde to give him before he left, explaining what she had done and that she will be retiring soon so she could leave the village for good and never look back. Naruto finished his packing quickly. Only having a few cloths and a couple of training scrolls with various notes he had made during his studies, when the slug Tsunade summoned came up to him as he was getting ready to leave. She explained what she was doing there and that she was to go with him. He didn't care, at least the old woman was trying to do something. He then proceeded to leave the village quickly and without any attention being drawn to him. He used all his skills to get away undetected and headed to the first place he knew to go, Wave. He knew he would find a safe haven there, and that was also where the remains of his mother's home was. You see, he remembers with a clarity that will never fade what both his parents told him when he first met them. Well, he figured he may no longer be a ninja, but that didn't stop him from becoming a seal master, the likes of which hasn't been seen since the fourth or before his mother's clan was wiped out. 2 years later, Naruto is now 19 and living a decent life of adventure, travel and women. We find our hero sitting by a lake rethinking the last 2 years of his life, wondering on what he should do. He had no home go to, and he was getting tired of being a bounty hunter. He had searched the ruins of Uzu as completely as he could but found nothing but a dead city. No underground vaults, no scrolls, nothing. It seemed hopeless until Tsunade's slug had appeared with both the letter and also the scroll that contained all his family's possessions. That was an exciting moment. Apparently all the scrolls had blood seals on them and the only one that could open them was Naruto himself. Hell, he didn't even need chakra for that. On top of all the money he received from his accounts, his family's and Jiraiya as well, he was very well off and didn't need to work, but he wanted to have fun and figured he would save this money for when he had a family of his own. He received his mother's sword, a katana that was named Kurahime, Dark Princess. The blade was gorgeous. The sword was 5 feet long total, with the blade being 4 foot in length and 2 inches in width with a solid black finish. The guard was pure gold that was shaped into the swirls of Uzu. The hilt was blood red with gold diamond wrapping and a golden cap on the end. The scabbard was a dark burnt orange that had a black dragon circling one side and a giant monkey on the other side. He couldn't understand the symbolism of this but went with it. Come on, that would look cool to anyone for crying out loud, and it's kind of ironic if you think about it. Additionally, he received his mother's sealing scrolls and all the Uzu scrolls that she had recovered after her homeland's destruction. Of course there was nothing he could do with the jutsu scrolls but study them and hope that someday soon he would be a good enough seal master to finally remove these goddamn seals. He was close. He could feel it but just not close enough. He still had to find a way around all the fail-safes those bastards had put into the sealing array. Of course there was one positive that came about from the sealing: it forced the complete absorption of the fox into his system. He also found all her taijutsu and kenjutsu styles, Mishima Ryu, Devil Jin from Tekken 5 Feet style, and Shiger Soin Ryu, Yamamoto from Hitman Reborn style. Next was his father's scrolls. The first scroll contained his 2 most notorious jutsu, the Hirishin and Rasengan, and the second scroll was a personal guide on Fuinjutsu from the basics to master sealing made specifically for him, along with notes from both of his parents on the art. The last contained his father's fighting style as well. Jiraiya had taught him some on this style. It called for quick strikes to joints and vital spots, but to Naruto it just didn't have the pure unpredictability that he so loved with his fighting style. Of course that wouldn't stop him from mastering all his parents' fighting skills and bastardizing them into one that he can use. Lastly was Jiraiya's gift to him. The information on how to run his spy network was included with his fighting style and jutsu. Of course Naruto had learned most of this information while he was on his training trip with the old pervert and during his own sage training, but it didn't hurt to have a refresher and extra information available. The last scroll that was included with this gift was one containing a weird metallic sphere. He had no idea what it was or what it was used for, but he kept it anyway just to be on the safe side. He knew he would need every available edge to survive. Of course the only enemies that he currently had were Sasuke and the rest of that brain-dead village. It's a good thing he had kept up with the old man's network, or he wouldn't have known about the different people wanting to find him or the jobs that he would end up taking to support himself. He just really wanted to be left alone for a while so he can live a peaceful life away from all that was ninja. Speaking of Konoha, well, let's just say that things have not been going well for them since Naruto's banishment. The village has lost all of the alliances that it once enjoyed that were due directly to Naruto's involvement. Bird, flower, snow, spring, bear, waterfall and Tsunade, just to name a few, had all withdrawn their support from the Leaf. Of course Tsunade didn't try very hard to prevent this. She was 100% supportive of these actions on the inside, but to maintain her facade of being the Hokage she tried to argue. Tried being the key word here. She was actually the one mainly responsible for the collapse that was getting into full swing. She had written letters to all the different countries explaining what happened to the hero of the elemental nations, and what she was doing about it. She only asked that Naruto be allowed to pursue his own life without interference from anyone and that she would take care of the situation at home. She was allowing the village to destroy itself from the inside. She had also prevented Sasuke's promotion to Jonin. Of course the council were the ones that wanted this, for the simple fact that he wasn't even a Chunin yet, and no amount of threats the council made could change this fact. The Hokage was the only one that could promote any ninja, and that was final. Of course Sasuke made the big mistake of demanding to be placed under the CRA. Well, let's just say that he didn't get exactly what he wanted from that little escapade. Council Chamber Konoha 3 months after Naruto's banishment. That old bitch. How dare she deign me being promoted to Jonin? I have been Jonin level since I left Orochimaru. Well, we will see about this. If she is going to take away my promotion, I'll just take as many of this village's whores to rebuild my clan with and then use my army to destroy this place and conquer the rest of the nations. Thought the seething Uchiha. I do hereby request to be placed into the Clan Restoration Act immediately. Stated the arrogant traitor after hearing he would not be promoted and would remain a genin until such time he had completed the proper testing procedures. Sasuke Uchiha. Quote. The Hokage sighed, as is your right under the law, you have invoked the Clan Restoration Act. Are you sure you wish to proceed? Once you formally request the protections and rights of the Clan Restoration Act, there is no turning back. Sasuke smirks. I do formally request the protections and rights as they are outlined under the Clan Restoration Act. Got you now, you smug little shit. The Hokage mentally cheered. Very well then, Sasuke Uchiha. You are hereby formally granted all the protections and rights of the Clan Restoration Act. Under the terms of the Clan Restoration Act, you are hereby retired from the ranks of ninja. The Hokage said, keeping her normal poker face while mentally cackling madly. Prodigy, my genjutsu covered ass. Spoiled brat is all he is, and now let's keep him off balance. For your protection and that of your clan, you and members of your clan are forbidden from leaving the village, forbidden from any and all combat except in defense of yourself or your clan, and forbidden from becoming ninja until such time that your clan is viable without you. That is when you have no less than 2 sons that each have a living wife and have each has produced at least 1 son that is of age to father a child of his own. The Hokage saw the look on the Uchiha's face and fought hard not to laugh. The little fucker walked right into this, and now to close the trap fully. For your protection, until such time that your first child is born, you will be confined to secure quarters, where you will be guarded by no less than 1 Anbu guard at all times. Only your wife and/or wives and Anbu guard may enter these quarters. The look on many of the civilians' faces as they began to understand what their precious Uchiha had gotten himself into made the Hokage's day. For the protection of your offspring, you may only teach them clan techniques, until such time that your clan is viable without you. Then you may teach your children and they may attend the academy as covered in our ninja laws. Tsunade said and kept going as several of the civilians looked like they were about to interrupt. Your rights under the Restoration Act does allow for taking of multiple wives. At least 2 will be chosen for you based on genetic compatibility, and will be chosen from those who are willing, with a preference for those that have already proven that they can survive birthing a child. Quote. Tsunade continued as if never seeing the shocked and outraged looks on the faces of the civilians and the Uchiha. After both are pregnant with your offspring, you may choose up 3 more concubines if both the intended concubine and your current wives agree. Regrettably, there are certain provisions in Konoha's laws that do allow for taking women as concubines without their consent. However, those various provisions all require you to win in combat against either the intended concubine or said intended's father. As you are forbidden from combat that is not in self-defense, you will not be forcing anyone to become such at this time or any time in the future. Tsunade so wished she had a camera at this point in time. The looks on the faces of the Uchiha and the council made her day. Please note that while genin may learn and use any technique that they are deemed able to by their instructors, retired genin are forbidden from learning or using any technique above Class B under the Civilian Protection Act. This was of course something the council cooked up to use against Naruto before they finally banished him, but never thought to repeal. And Tsunade was going to use it to bite them and their favored son in the ass. Trade the hero for the traitor, will you? You dumb ass old fucks. As the Civilian Protection Act has no provisions for bloodlines, and your Sharingan is ranked as a Class A, you and your offspring will have it sealed until such time as your clan is viable. She then turned to address the council as a whole. Also, I would like to remind the council that once the protections and rights of the Clan Restoration Act are granted, as they have just been, then under the terms of the Act, any changes the Hokage or council wish to make to the terms of the Act apply only to future recipients of the protections and rights of the Act. Any attempt to modify the protections and rights as they apply to a recipient is a violation of the Act. As the Act exists for the good of the village, any violators of the Act will be arrested, will be interrogated at length, and may be executed for treason. Several of the civilian council winced physically at that, and the blonde-haired Hokage knew that was exactly what some of them were planning. She then turned back to Sasuke. Also, I have to inform you that under the terms of the Restoration Act, Any attempt to undermine the security granted to you under the Act will result in restrictions. Once you have one son that is old enough to father a child, any attempts by you to undermine the security granted to him and any other of your offspring will result in your being in violation of the Act, in which case you will be arrested, interrogated, and may be executed for treason. Here Tsunade smirked and knew this will be the final nail in the Uchiha's coffin. As we are done with the Uchiha, he may leave. Anbu will escort you to the registry desk and you may fill out the forms to begin looking for a bride in the approved manner. The Hokage watched as Anbu did just that, and once the doors were closed the Hokage turned to the civilian council. Is there anything you wish to say, you decrepit old fucks? This shocked the pants off of many in the room. Still in a massive state of shock, no one responded at all. She promptly turned on her heel and followed a smirking Shizune out of the council chamber. Let me go, Sasuke roared as the Anbu shoved him into a room. Stay here, traitor. Someone will be here to apply the CRA seals to you shortly. The door was closed and Sasuke looked around, seeing that it was underground with no windows and the locked door as the only way out. Do you know WHOIAM? Let me out of here right now. He screamed out, but the only response he received was silence. A.N. The scene that was just read came from the story, We Are, by Arislakermika. Used with permission. Shout out to Orion the Hunter, who is responsible for the CRA section of the story. I strongly recommend this story. Good read. Back with Naruto. About a month after he had left the village he started his training with the scrolls he received. Before that he had gone to Uzu and searched for anything he could use. Of course he found nothing, so he decided to leave again to set up Arrow Senin's spy network again and become a bounty hunter. He had spent the first full year setting everything up and training when he took his first job. After his first job of taking out some minor bandits with no trouble, having become proficient in his mother's clan taijutsu and kenjutsu style, we find him in a hotel where one of the weirdest incident in his life was about to occur. Flashback. What the fuck? My lower spine feels like it's splitting in half. This was the first thought that comes to Naruto when he wakes up. Just yesterday he took out some local bandits, so now he was sleeping in a hotel room before leaving town to continue his journey of training and life. Still in pain he gets up and goes to prepare for his departure. In the bathroom he stopped to look at the mirror. He had changed a lot in the year he'd been banished. All his baby fat was gone due to his rigorous training regime, and not being able to eat ramen all the time helped, plus he had been convinced to cut back before he was banished. Another big change in his opinion was his hair darkened, almost becoming a bronze color with streaks of blonde and red running through it, giving him a very exotic quality. He really didn't care about that change though. The darker hair looked cooler to him, and the ladies had taken a liking to it as well. If the girl in my bed is anything to go by, he thought, looking at a naked brunette he picked up at a bar last night. She was a waitress that had a thing for strong bounty hunters. I love bounty hunters. They seem to live by their own rules, she said as she was crawling on top of him to begin round 3 for the night. He turned away from the mirror and makes his way into the shower. It was a semi-small shower with a curtain on one side and 3 walls with just enough space for him to stand and wash, but not much else, as he had found out last night with the waitress. Naruto closes the curtain so no water can get on floor outside of the shower, but then the pain in his back gets so bad he drops to his knees trying to hold in his screams of pain. He doesn't want to deal with the after one night stand issues. Then all of a sudden the pain just vanishes as if he had never felt it. Fuck, that hurt. What the hell happened and why did it just stop like that? Not that I'm complaining or anything. Thinking his was over, he gets up to go for the soap on the wall side of the shower, but before he can grab the bar the shower curtain slid open. He looked back at the curtain and outside the shower, he sees no one and thinks it may have been the wind. Reaching for the curtain he closed it back and goes for the soap again just for curtain to slide open again, but this time he feels it open. Looking back again he sees a brown furry thing with a dark black tip press lightly against the curtain. In a swift movement of his hand, he grabs it tight so it doesn't get away, just to have his early back pain to return full force. Dropping to his knees and letting go of the strange appendage, the pain subsided. Upon getting back to his feet he sees that the furry thing is really a tail coming from his lower back right above his butt. The thing that surprised him the most was it was a monkey tail instead of a fox tail, which was what he'd expected. Over the next 20 minutes he figures out how to control it, but also figured out it is extreme sensitive, making it useless until he can get used to it. All in all, not so bad, but he is still royally confused on why he has it, so he files it in the "another reason I'm not normal" folder to look into later. After that he got out the shower, got dressed, and left town before the girl in his bed could even get up. He continues training for the next couple months, studying to get better in his taijutsu and kenjutsu, and starts studying the fuinjutsu scrolls from his father and mother in hopes of removing the chakra seals on him. While kenjutsu and taijutsu are great, he knows he can only go so far with them in terms of strength, and knows he needs something better or can even the field against a missing nin. He had been mediating in order to calm himself since his sage training, despite not being able to pull nature chakra with his chakra sealed. He still mediated and actually gained a very useful skill from it. He had found that he could read minds with a touch, and if he digs hard enough he could even go deeper and see a person's memories even from when they were a child. His ability was actually on level with the Yamanaka clan, except he couldn't jump in a person's body, but he could read the mind of a recently dead person. But the limit for time of death was 3 days and the brain must still be intact. 13 months into his journey and we come to another weird event which takes place at a bandit camp. He is about take out. It about midnight and a full moon was out. He's just finished scouting out the camp. Flashback. There's about 40 bandits, no hostages. Good, this shouldn't be too bad. It's my biggest job yet though. I better be careful and set some traps to prevent escape. Thought Naruto watching the bandits celebrate their latest pillage. The camp was just a bunch of set up tents in no real order. It didn't even have any guards to watch the perimeter. Just a bunch brainless jackasses. Oh well, makes the job easier. I'm kinda glad that I went ahead and set up those traps though. He thought, getting ready to attack. He sees most of the bandits were sleeping or getting ready to go to sleep anyway. He wasn't expecting any serious trouble, and this camp was far off from any villages. The only reason they had bounties out was because they kept attacking merchants and caravans traveling through. Starting his attack from the darkest corner of the camp, Naruto swiftly moves from tent to tent, killing the bandits that were asleep and stabbing ones that weren't in the throat with Kurihime so that they can't cry out for help. He may have quit being a ninja, but that didn't mean he'd stop operating like one. About halfway through the camp, after killing about 20 bandits, he was spotted by someone coming from the woods outside the camp after relieving themselves. Before he could kill the guy, he yells to the rest of the camp, and within seconds Naruto is surrounded by the last 20 bandits, with the boss standing front and center. Unknown to Naruto, the boss is actually an A- rank missing nin, Stonefist from Iwa. Of course, with Naruto looking almost identical to his father in the dark, this sends the missing nin, having been third shinobi war, into a blind rage. So he attacks Naruto without warning. Doden. Doryuden no Jutsu, yells the ex-Iwa nin. A dragon head made of mud erupts from ground into front the nin and starts to shot mud balls from its mouth at our hero. Well, this is just fucking great. He's a damn missing nin and it looks like he knows me. Wonder what I did to piss him off. Naruto yells mentally while dodging the mud balls. Naruto finally gets out of the way of the attack and rushes the nin, hoping to end him before he causes any real problems, but before he can make it to him, a different bandit gets in the way and swings a dagger at him. Naruto, who was only focused on the nin, isn't prepared for it and just barely dodges out of the way, but moves completely off his course and into the path of the Stonefist's next attack. Doden. Doryo Dango no Jutsu, yells the still enraged Stonefist as he grabs a large boulder he just made and tosses it at Naruto. Not even noticing it, Naruto gets hammered by the boulder and crashes the ground and skidded about 10 meters. Fuck, this isn't good, the blonde was thinking while the missing nin stalks toward him to finish the job. Naruto was laying on his back bleeding from his head wound, wondering if this is it and where the hell did he drop his sword. He apparently dropped his sword during the crash. He stares up at the stars thinking on what to do next. Well, I'm screwed. I still haven't been able to remove these damn seals and I haven't found a replacement for ninjutsu yet. Damn it, he says mentally, then looks at the full moon, forgetting about his situation for the moment. Wow, the moon looks beautiful now that I think about it. It's been a while since I've seen a fu. He stops mid-thought when his body starts heating up rapidly, then everything goes black. Next morning, Naruto wakes up shivering from the cold. He slowly gets up, realizing he's lying in the dirt. Upon further inspection he's naked and promptly freaks out. Why hell am I naked? I'm in a damn field that looks like it was burnt recently. Is that a crop circle? Holy shit. Then he calms down after doing a thorough check of his body. Okay, my butt doesn't hurt, we're good there, so that means no anal probes, but why am I out here? And then he remembers what happened during his assault on the bandit camp. Taking a good look around, he sees he is standing in the remains of the bandit camp where everything and everyone is either burnt or crushed. Quickly finding his sword, he looks for a remotely intact person or body so he can scan their mind and figure out what he missed last night. After a long search, he finally finds what he's looking for on the edge of the camp. A dead body with some decent clothes that appears to have died of shock. He places his palm on the head and starts reading the now ex-bandit's mind. Naruto watches himself lay on the ground after he was hit by the boulder. His body starts to jerk around, then begins to grow and rip through his clothes. Dark brown fur starts to cover his body as he continues to grow and swell to monstrous proportions. He continues to grow until he's 100 feet tall, and beats on his chest like any ape would that is threatening someone or something. It's then that Naruto realizes he just turned into a giant ape. He continues to watch in complete fascination as his ape self rampages through the camp, stomping and smashing anything that got in his way. Then missing Nin from before starts to attack him with another Doden. Dorio Dango. This boulder is the size of a 2-story building. The Nin tosses the boulder, but when it gets closest to the ape, it opened its mouth wide and beam shoots out, completely obliterating boulder, Nin, and several bandits nearby. That's when everything goes black. Removing his hand from dead bandit's head, Naruto can't even begin to explain what he's feeling right now. The monkey tail is one thing, but transforming into a giant ape, yeah, he's definitely not normal, but what really caught his attention about the whole scene is that beam that he shot from his mouth. He knew it wasn't chakra, his chakra was sealed, and even if he changes into a giant ape, the seal matrix is imprinted on his skin. So what was that? He knows he can't use any more than enough chakra to open a sealing scroll. Whatever that was, it wasn't chakra, but he would find out because that was what he was looking for to level the field against ninjutsu and genjutsu users. So he stripped the cloths from several dead bodies until he found some that fit him, put them on after cutting a hole for his tail, and left to get his pay for the bounty. Then goes to a deserted area to train, trying to see if he could repeat the attack from the memory. And, after almost 2 years, he had finally completed the first step of his goal. Having mastered his mother's taijutsu and kenjutsu style, he had more time to learn fuinjutsu, which he was adept in. He also figured out how to use that beam attack. It was through fuinjutsu and meditation that he figures out what that energy was. It was the physical energy, or ki for short, which when combined with spiritual energy, makes chakra. He found that even with his chakra being sealed, he could use his ki. When chakra seals are applied to a person, all that's really sealed is the person's spiritual energy, of Reiki for short. Ki can't be completely sealed off without the person dying. It's required for you to move and live. Now comes the fun part. When ki is compressed and focused, it can be shot out as a beam like ape did. He also found that like chakra, ki is easiest to focus in your head and hands. The reason almost nobody has discovered this yet is because you have to separate your ki and Reiki, and with all the common everyday uses of chakra there wasn't any reason to try this separation. Naruto also learned that to increase your ki, you just have to increase your physical strength because it was produced through the muscles. Finding a town out in the middle of nowhere far from the elemental countries called Mayoi, which was a small farming town. Naruto stayed there to train his ki. He also learns by using gravity seals instead of normal weights, he could keep his track runner body structure without getting an overly muscular body, which enabled him to keep his speed. 2 months later and he could finally focus his ki enough to shoot beams and blasts from his hands, though it was nowhere near as strong as the one from his ape form. Ki beams were ki attacks that shot a beam of energy that vaporized anything that it was hotter than. Ki blasts, though weaker than ki beams, uses less ki and shoot out a ball of energy that explode on contact, possibly doing more damage on a wider frame but in exchange for weaker damage. He also learned to control his transform as well. He can even look at a full moon without transforming by completely suppressing his ki. So there is no energy to transform to begin with, but when he does transform, he is also in complete control of himself. He constantly keeps his ki suppressed near a full moon so no accidents happen. 2 more months later and Naruto has finally become an expert in fuinjutsu but still can't remove the chakra seals. All those fail-safes that were incorporated into the matrix is what keep tripping him up. It also doesn't help that he must be looking down on his body or in a mirror in order to even see the damn thing. He also mastered his ki control though, other than energy beams and blasts. He hasn't found any other use for it, but he made sure to make his own signature attack. He called it the Rasengan, which was base of the Great Ball Rasengan, except this attack could be launched and explodes on impact into an energy tornado that sliced everything it touches. His physical strength has grown to the point where if he could use Sage mode it would be doubled compared to what he normally has when using Sage Chakra. He also found out, by Ascendant of course, when bandits would try to stab or cut him with their swords or knives, they couldn't even break the skin, and some sword and knives even broke on contact. 2 more months and it's hitting the 2-year mark in his journey, which brings us to where he's at now. Sitting by a lake outside town thinking about how far he has come. He's changed a lot in his 2-year adventure. He was now 19 years old, about 6 feet 2 inches in height, but had the body structure of a track runner with the muscle strength of a bodybuilder. His baby fat has completely melted off thanks to all the training he pushed himself into. He figured if Lee could become a ninja without ninjutsu or genjutsu, then why couldn't he? His skin was tanned and his dark yellow, streaked spiky hair was tied in a braid that went to middle of his back. The braid had actually been done by one of the girls in town, and even though hair spiked on top, it didn't spike going down his back so it could be braided. He had long abandoned his orange and black jumpsuit, deciding to go with more casual yet built for combat clothing. They were more comfortable and made him stand out less, but he still had to have his orange. He now wears a black sleeveless turtleneck shirt covered by black body armor. He has a black leather jacket over that. It is black with a 3-inch orange strip that covered his collar and ran down his shoulders to the end of the sleeves. Over his forearms are black and orange forearm protectors that he had painted to match the exact pattern of his jacket, and on his hands are black fingerless gloves with a metal plate attached to the back. Below he was wearing a pair of baggy cargo pants that went down his legs until they came to a stop at the base of his feet, which were covered by black combat boots. They also had a hole in the back for his tail. He had 2 dark brown belts on his waist going criss-cross like a planet's rings. On them were his ink and scrolls for sealing. Also he had 2 full equipment pouches above his behind stuffed full of kunai, shuriken and wire, as well as explosives of various kinds. He figured just because he was no longer a ninja, why give up the tools that he was used to using. Hanging loosely going diagonal from his right shoulder to his left hip was another dark brown belt that held his sword, kurahime. He had seals on all his clothes so they would repair themselves and grow with his body, so no more coming back naked from his ape transformation. He had been thinking about what he was gonna do now, and his was close to becoming a master of fuinjutsu, and would most likely be removing the chakra seals soon, not like he needed to. Ki was far more suited to combat than chakra, and no one else that he had ever met knew about this energy, so it gave him one hell of an edge, but chakra still had his uses and Ki couldn't control the elements as far as he knew. In the end he could just use both. Separating Ki and Reiki wasn't hard, and he could do it without a thought now. He was also thinking if he should leave Mayoi or not. He had only been here 6 months, but he had grown attached to this little town and even started teaching the kids and a few adults how to defend themselves from bandits. He was looked up to by the children and by the adults alike. There was no glaring or sneering behind his back. He would still bounty hunt though, leave to take out a few bandit camps in the surround countries, then be back in a few days. He even had his own house and wasn't sleeping in a hotel like most of the villages and cities he had been to. Maybe I should stay, I can't do this forever, he thought, but lately my urge for a battle has really grown and these bandits aren't sating it. But then again, I probably won't find another place like this ever again. I think I'm gonna stay. The townsfolk are nice and don't even seem to be affected by the fact that I change into a giant ape during a full moon, though it's by choice now, he finished. Coming to his final decision, yeah, I'm gonna Santa, boom, he was interrupted by a giant explosion from the town. Jumping to his feet, Naruto starts running back to town only to see everything ablaze. Hearing the screaming of townsfolk, he runs to help, but just when he lands outside of town, having jumped from the tree line, another explosion lights the area. The force of the explosion blows him back to the edge of the forest. Jumping back up, he sees a sight that makes his heart stop. The town was completely gone. In its place was a crater. Not even ashes were left of the town or its people. Distraught, Naruto gets up and goes to investigate to see what caused the explosion. It was only a small farming town. What could they have that could cause an explosion of this magnitude? When he gets to the center of the crater, he found what looks like a large metal ball. Wait, that looks familiar. What the hell is going on? It was white and had a purple circle on it. Getting closer, he sees what looks like a man in a fish suit with a black chest plate like armor, a brown tribal skirt, and white boots with brown tips. Think Kiwi from DBZ. Our blonde decides to get a closer look at the strange-looking man. Upon getting closer to him, he overhears the guy talking into a weird device on his head. Yes, tell Lord Frieza this planet should be good for market. Its inhabitants have pathetic power levels regardless what those records the Saiyans had on this place said. I just destroyed a settlement and they were no trouble. I'll return as soon as the planet is ready for sale, says the guy as he turns off his device. Turning around, he spots Naruto. Oh, I guess I missed one. Huh, he says. Hey, who are you and what happened to this town? Naruto asks, still confused on what happened and what was going on. I am Lieutenant Giwi of Lord Frieza's galactic army, and this town and soon to be this whole planet's inhabitants will be exterminated for Lord Frieza, replied the now named Giwi. What? Why the fuck would you do that? These people haven't done anything wrong and you destroyed it for some lord. What the fuck is wrong with you? Yells Naruto as his rage begins to rise. True as that may be, Lord Frieza wants this planet and there's really nothing you or anyone else can do about it. Lord Frieza is the strongest being in the universe, none can beat him. Chuckling, he continues. It doesn't matter. You shouldn't really mourn for those insects because you will be joining them shortly. Ha ha ha. Giwi finished before preparing to attack Naruto but stops when he sees Naruto's tail swaying from side to side in irritation. A Saiyan? What is a Saiyan doing here? I thought they had this planet forbidden years ago. He thinks. Naruto at this point was going through a great many different emotions right now, but the one that was standing above the rest was rage. Pure rage. Stronger than he had experienced with the Kyuubi, stronger than seeing Pain cut down Hinata. This bastard just came and destroyed possibly his only chance to live a calm life, all because his lord wants to rule the planet. He was gonna pay big time. This fuck is going to pay with his life. Naruto was fighting a losing battle to keep calm. If this guy could vaporize a whole town, he had to be strong. The black and orange-clad Demi-Saiyan knew he had to stay calm to come up with a plan to beat this guy, but the weird thing was, he could sense the guy's strength, yet he couldn't quite explain why that was. In his anger though, he didn't notice his hair spiking a bit more and flashing from its normal streaked colors to a golden blonde, and his eyes were flashing from the normal cerulean blue to emerald green. Obviously Giwi doesn't notice either. If he did, he would have run like a bat out of hell by now. Of course, like the incompetent fool he is, after destroying the town he thought all the people inhabiting this planet were weaklings, so in his arrogance he turned off his scouter and is now pondering over why a Saiyan was on this planet. Breaking from his train of thought, it doesn't matter why he's here. I'll just kill him and continue with my mission, he thinks as he begins his attack, concluding, the only good Saiyan is a dead one. Say hello to those insects for me when you see them in the next dimension, ha ha ha. Laughs Giwi, then throws a ki blast at Naruto. This was the last straw for Naruto. He destroyed all these people and threatens to kill more and then laughs his ass off about it while trying to kill me too. He thinks to himself, no more. He screams as his rage has finally hit the point of no return and explodes into a golden aura that looks like fire surrounding his body. Naruto's release of golden ki was strong enough to knock the incoming blast away and then prepares to attack. He takes small notices of his changes after catching sight of the aura surrounding him and seeing the ki blast blasted back by it. The color of his hair was now a shining gold. At the top of his head his hair had lengthened and was standing straight up and out to the sides. The end of his braid was more spiky than usual and his tail was the same color as his hair. He also showed larger muscles and gained more mass, but not enough to slow him down, and even though he couldn't see his eyes, they had turned a pupil less emerald green. Naruto shoot off running at this weird bastard at speeds he has never known before. He made both Guy and Lee look slow by comparison. The intent to not just beat this monster but to completely destroy any trace that he was ever a living being, was the only thing on his mind. All Naruto wanted was this man to become a steaming pile of rotting meat on the ground before he vaporized him into atoms. Giwi, startled by his blast being deflected and Naruto's changes, was unprepared for the right hand that slammed in his gut, putting a huge hole in his chest armor, or the follow-up of a left hand connecting with a jaw-shattering hook that knocked his scouter off. Naruto continued beating Giwi to an inch of his life until the alien regained some sense and hastily flew into the air to avoid the massive assault Naruto was dishing out. The alien knew the inhabitants on this planet couldn't fly, so he figured he would be safe in the air until he can regroup and come up with a counter-attack. Seeing the alien rise into the air and starting to fly away, Naruto stops his assault and watches to see if he can figure out how Giwi is able to fly. Reaching out with his senses, the young man can feel the use of ki, and realizes that it is being pushed out from his feet at a constant rate. The same way water walking is done with chakra, but having the opposite effect. Instead of making him stick to the surface as chakra does, ki repels the ground and air away from it. Well, that's simple enough. Why didn't I think of this before? Time to give it a try and continue beating this fucker into an early grave. Giwi, seeing Naruto's assault stop, starts to fly away at high speeds, hoping to find a way to beat this crazy and really weird Saiyan. The purple alien is able to get about a mile away from Naruto and the crater and calms down, thinking of what to do next. Damn it, I had no idea Saiyans could be that strong. And what is he doing here? I thought all the Saiyans were destroyed except Nappa, Raditz, Vegeta, and the one they went to Earth to find. Kakarot, I think his name was. Yes, that was it. The son of that fool Bardock who thought he could stop Frieza from destroying their planet and avenge his team. What was that transformation about anyway? He said out loud while searching for a place to land. I know there is a legend of a Super Saiyan, but that was just a myth. That does explains the rumor why Frieza destroyed the Saiyan race in the first place though. Lord Frieza must have reasoned if there were no more alive then none could achieve that level of power and overthrow him. It was said to be legend, for crying out loud. This can't be happening. Shit. And without my scouter I can't get a reading on his power level. Giwi was so lost in thought, and with his inability to sense energy, he didn't even notice that Naruto had learned to fly enough to catch up to him. He was completely unprepared for the ki blast that hit him in the back, or the double axe-handed attack that sent him crashing face first to the ground. Startled by the fact that Naruto learned fly so fast, he didn't even have time to think about the huge swirling ki blast coming toward him until it was too late. Naruto, wanting to kill this guy in the most painful way possible, powered up his most deadly signature attack, the Rasengan. Swirling his ki to form a giant ball of death the size of his Great Ball Rasengan in Sage mode, but a lot stronger, and seeing as ki is easier to contain than chakra, it was easier to use. It just needed more energy, which Naruto had in spades. That aside, Naruto sends the energy ball at Giwi. The ball of death impacted, causing a huge maelstrom to form, destroying everything within a 100-foot radius. After a minute the storm calmed. Giwi's screaming had stopped about 30 seconds before. When the dust cleared enough to see, a crater twice the size of the where the town used to be devoid of all life was found. Luckily there were no villages or people nearby because everything had been completely razed to pieces, but surprisingly enough Giwi's body was the only thing not completely vaporized. It was still missing its legs and right arm, but other than the majority of his body being covered in minor gashes to his chest and back, his body was mostly still intact. He's dead of course, but his head is in good enough shape for Naruto to thoroughly read his mind and find this Frieza guy who ordered the destruction of his town and the genocide of this whole planet. Dropping to the ground next to Giwi, his transformation finally stops, leaving the Saiyan in a slightly tired state but not enough to make him pass out. After catching his breath he walks to the steaming core and places his palm on the now dismembered alien's head to begin his scan. He also learned several ways to use his ki from looking into Giwi's memories of his training. He can now do ki waves, which will vaporize anything the heat of the blast is hotter than, in telekinesis. This is the ability to move stuff with your mind without having to touch it. Seeing as he was done with Giwi's body, he tests his new skills on Giwi's remains. Using telekinesis to hurl the body into the air, and using a ki wave to vaporize it, Naruto nods to himself thinking that will do just fine. After seeing these new skills work like a charm, he uses another of his newly acquired skills to launch himself into the air so he can fly back to the crater that once was his town to see if he can use any equipment Giwi left behind and search for any survivors or remains that he will have to put to rest. Back at the Mayoi crater, Naruto lands back in the crater near the metal ball from earlier, now identified as a spacepod. Well, that explains that weird metal ball that was included with Arrow Sennin's stuff, he thinks to himself. After searching the area for any survivors and finding none, Naruto makes his way around the area that he had first assaulted the purple alien. Looking around, he finds Giwi's head device. This has also been identified. It's called a scouter and has the ability to scan for lifeforms all over the planet and read the power levels of said lifeforms. Yeah, not like it really did that piece of shit any good. Naruto picks it up and places it on as if he had been using it all his life. He had learned how to use a lot of technology from Giwi's memories, including his scouter and pod. Upon turning it on, Naruto scans the nearby area, while making sure he mutes his microphone so no one can hear him just in case. Looking around, he sees the closest life form to be a raccoon. It apparently only had a power level of 3. This is cool. I can actually measure out the power levels of anything around. From the memories I found, the primary energy used in combat is ki. Well, lucky me. This scouter is even the latest model too. Let's see, sweet. It can apparently measure power levels up to 200,000 and has a zoom-in camera to see from far away. Apparently, Giwi was only a high-level grunt who was just getting the privilege to conquer weak-level planets solo. Too bad he ran into me. Believe it. Sorry guys and girls, I just had to add this. It won't be a common thing. I too hate that damn phrase. Pushing some buttons on the side, he looks up the power level history. Checking Giwi's most recent power level, he had a level of 27,000. Wow, Naruto whistles impressed. That's a lot more than a raccoon. I wonder what mine is. Naruto says while locking in on himself and switching to auto mode to read any level nearby. Okay, I'm sitting at 200 when I suppress my ki, then beginning to release his hold on it, the scouter reacts. 70,000 when released. Yeah, I'm bad. It may have been more than that asshole I took out, but this Frieza Teme is apparently still stronger than me. Well, I guess I have nothing better to do than train if I want to stop this guy. If he sent a grunt that's strong, then he is bound to send more. I just can't stand around and wait for someone that's strong to show up and wipe out all life on the planet. For the next few weeks, Naruto trained at perfecting his flying and other jutsus, but he was unable to figure out how to transform like he did during his battle with Giwi. The thing that made him so interested in the transformation, other than the boost of speed, was the fact that the transformation completely shattered his chakra seals and his chakra control improved dramatically. Despite having an imbalance of ki and reiki, now, he could evenly control the input of both ki and reiki, so he was doing better. Now that he had access to his chakra again, he decided to polish and perfect all his technique by using his shadow clones for training. He learned all the jutsu from the scrolls he received within a few days and mastered them a few days later, but still preferred the ki method for fighting. Oh, he can go toe-to-toe with anyone in the elemental nations using only jutsu, but why bother when he could just use a ki blast and finish the fight without all the hassle of using hand seals? Well, that is unless he was having fun and the fighter was strong enough to give him a challenge, that is. With his improved control, he could now pull off moves that he wouldn't even consider doing before. Between his knowledge of seals and shadow clones, this allowed our hero to learn the Hirishin his father was famous for in a day and a half, but found that compared to his normal speed it was almost useless unless he needed to instantly travel very far distances. He also used his shadow clones to get used to fighting while in the air. Alternating between ground-to-air and air-to-ground attacks with air-to-air and ground-to-ground mixed in for good measure, helped a lot with his dodging skills and control. The thing that really got him was the whole fighting while airborne. It was exhilarating to be free from gravity's hold on him, and he could pull off maneuvers never thought of in the ninja nations. At the moment he was flying around the world checking power levels. Despite the usefulness of the scouter, he knew better than to become reliant on it. Like with jutsu, enemies could develop strategies or techniques to work around or beat it if used too much. So far, for the average person he found had power levels somewhere between 25 and 100. For ninja the levels were much higher but nowhere near his. Academy students and genin were around 150 to 400, chunin were 400 to 1200, junin and anbu were 1200 to 3000, and kage were 3000 and higher. Naruto was currently flying toward Konoha after having just finished a trip to one of the other hidden villages to get an overhead view of the power levels since he couldn't land or be seen. I still can believe that old man Tsuchikage has a power level of 4500 that makes him the strongest kage so far. He said as continued onto Konoha from the sky. That's sad too because even if they have the ki, none of them have realized it or even tried to use it. Even if it's discovered, chakra has far more uses than for combat unlike ki. Yeah, if you have enough control you can move things with telekinesis, but that only has so many uses. He finishes just as Konoha comes into view. He flies to the center of town and stops. From high up he stays hovering as he makes a quick scan of the village's ninja so he can return to the pod to beginning the next stage for his journey. Starting with the Hokage Tower he begins his scan, hoping to find noteworthy power levels. Okay, let's start with the mission room. Iruka Sensei is pretty decent with 2000, and Shizune Nichan has a 1900. That's damn good for a medic nin and a teacher. They must do a lot of physical labor even by ninja standards. He then looks into the Hokage's office and scans a sleeping Tsunade. 4900. Whoa, looks like Baon beat the old Tsuchikage for the highest power level. Must be all that super strength. Leaving the Hokage Tower he happens upon the barbecue restaurant frequented by Team 10. And finds them coming out into the street. Okay, let's see, Choji has 3300. That really good but that's to be expected from his clan. Looking to Choji's left he finds Ino. Damn, she got hotter than she was before I left. Maybe, he says as he slips off into perv land. In another plane of existence we find a white-haired old man doing what he is most famous for, peeking on women of course. I feel a rising of the perv. The only person it could be with that much training is Naruto himself. Sniffling and shedding some tears the old man beams with pride. I finally got to you my boy. I'm so proud of you, he exclaims. This of course was not overlooked by the woman he was spying on and they quickly proceeded to hand him his ass on a platter. Snapping out of his lust-induced fantasies before he loses control and plummets to the ground, he gets back to work with the scan. She has 2100. Not bad for someone that leans toward genjutsu. Looking across from Ino he sees Shikamaru. Scanning him just to frown in disgust. Did I really just read 1300? Isn't he a junin for crying out loud? Man, he is suck a lazy ass. Turning from the barbecue place he spots Team 8 by Ichiraku Ramen. I guess they're waiting for their sensei, he says as he begins scanning. Kiba and Hinata both have about 2400, with Shino trailing with 2100. He relies on his bugs too much but those are all still good for Chunin. Of course once again he starts to fall back into the whole perverted fantasy once he has finished scanning Hinata. She will always have a very special place in his heart for her. She was the first person to ever truly love him for him and was willing to die to save him. I think if things were different I'd do everything I could to be with her. He was about to leave but spotted Anko and Kurenai walking up and scans them too. Damn, I forgot how hot Kunoichi are. Let's see, Crazy Snake Lady has 2500. That's the highest Junin I've seen yet. Kurenai is at 2300. Really good for a genjutsu specialist. That just means she doesn't neglect her taijutsu either. He says as he floats over the town. Looking away from town, he spots the training ground and decides to scan there next. Naruto sees his old team training, well sorta. Kakashi is training Sasuke and Sakura is fawning in the corner. What the hell is this? I thought Sakura actually decided to take her training seriously. Why in the world is she acting like a damn fangirl again? Peef. I guess I was right when I told her that she didn't really stop loving that asshole. I'm just glad I didn't try anything with her. Just woulda ended up getting hurt if I had. He had long since gotten over Sakura, especially after sleeping the many different women he did as a bounty hunter. Looking at her now, her looks were kinda below average. She wasn't ugly but she wasn't beautiful either. Anyway, back to the task at hand. Kakashi's level is 2500. Sakura is 2700. Must be that super strength of hers like Tsunade Baon has. And Sasuke Tamiz is. Well, that's surprising as hell, it's only 1300. He sinkers, trying to keep from letting out a full-blown laugh and getting caught. He might even be the physically weakest of all the Konoha 12 as well, cause he's always relying on his Sharingan. Dumbass. He keeps looking around and finds Team Guy, and for some unknown reason he gets excited about scanning them. Neji has a level of 2500 good, Tenten's is 2200 both good, but what do you expect from being on Team Guy? Great physical strength and stamina is a requirement to even try to keep up with bushy brows Senior. Now where are Lee and Guy? He says, looking for the two spandex wearing weirdos. Locating them not too far away, just finishing up in a taijutsu match. He scans them and almost falls out of the sky in shock. What the hell? Bushy brows and Bushy brows Senior have ridiculous power levels. Bushy brows Senior has a level 7500. Damn, I've got to fight him one of these days, and Bushy brows level is 9000. Smiling, he has to almost physically stop himself from landing and challenging them to a match. I know they're taijutsu specialist, but that's damn good. They have the highest power levels on the planet behind myself, isn't that youthful? Finishing his scans, he returns to the pod to prepare for his departure for Frieza's base. Giwi's memories said that Frieza was leaving on a trip and he was gonna be gone for a while. That means it's time to introduce the universe to Naruto Uzumaki. I see some great pranks coming up soon. An evil gleam appears in his eyes as he rubs his hands together in anticipation. Maybe I'll find out where Frieza is going and go terrorize him in person, but I have to get stronger before I can do that. Wouldn't be all that much fun to get vaped before I have a chance to drive him insane before I kill him. He says as he opens up the space pod. But in the normal Naruto manner he thinks, so what if he's stronger than me? I'll do the same thing I always do. Fly by the seat of my pants and stomp a mud hole in his ass and walk it dry. He then hops in the pod, closes the hatch and sets the coordinates for home. The pod powers up and shots off in a burst of speed. Naruto leaves planet Elemental or Elam not to return for a long time. Fluggy, Redia, and Pinnix were all a bit worried, frustrated and bored out of their minds. Being the only three guys running the main control room can do that to you. Also, for some reason Lord Frieza made anyone lower than Lieutenant wear the skirt and Bloomer's version battle armor when on the base. Of course, since these three were always on the base, they always had a wedgie and even questioned Frieza's duality most of the time. Everyone on the base had a sneaking suspicion that Lord Frieza was gay and in a relationship with Zarbin, but no one was bold enough to ask him. Who wants to be killed over curiosity? Obviously, they're no cat-like aliens on the base. It had only been 2 weeks since Lord Frieza left, and a week later newly promoted Lieutenant Giwi left as well. Giwi was supposed to prepare planet Elam for takeover and sail. This planet was one that both Lord Frieza and his brother Lord Cooler have been fighting over for a while. Apparently, the resources on the planet are so abundant that they both wanted to use it as a vacation home before strip mining the place for all the natural resources. After that was done, what else would they do with it? Well, blow it up and get anything else they could from the rubble, of course. Greedy bastards. The problem was, both brothers wanted it, and since the two have never gotten along, it was obvious they were going to fight over it. That being said, there was a good chance Giwi got ambushed by one of Lord Cooler's men. The fact that Giwi hadn't reported back daily like he said he would pretty much confirmed it. Vegeta had also come back a few days ago to heal from what looked like a massive beating, but left for Planet Namek right away after learning from Private Kiwi, Giwi's younger brother, that Lord Frieza was already on his way there. None of them knew why, but they always had a feeling that Vegeta would eventually betray Lord Frieza at some point and thought now might be that time. It had been a little over a week and a half now, and at the moment they were still trying to get in contact with the missing lieutenant. The tree base guards were about to give up when they received an emergency transmission. "This is Lieutenant Giwi, reporting in. I'll be landing in 5 minutes, says an uptight voice over the intercom. "Lieutenant, sir, this is Redia. Why haven't you reported back until now? What is your current status and what's the situation on planet Elam?" "The mission has been compromised. I was attacked, but I couldn't identify my attacker. As for my status, that is not your concern. I'm entering the atmosphere now. Giwi out," replies the voice over the comm line. It was probably one of Cooler's men. "The Ginyu force may have to be dispatched to take care of the problem when they return," said Fluggy after listening in on the conversation. "Well, that was kinda rude, cutting you off like that, Fluggy." "Wonder why he would cut you off like that?" questioned Pinnix. "Maybe his new rank has gone to his head." Fluggy responds with a shrug. Landing pad. Fluggy and Redia were standing at attention near the landing pad designated for the once missing lieutenant. Pinnix had been selected to stay behind just in case another transmission was received. They had arrived just in time for the pod to come crashing into one of the landing spots. They watch patiently as the pod door slowly cracks open, releasing the contained atmosphere with a loud hissing noise. Lieutenant Giwi emerges slowly from the pod. A few cuts and a huge hole in the front of his armor were the most glaringly obvious to the two. They then looked closer and discovered he had a large amount of bruising and was bleeding slightly from a few shallow cuts. Just cosmetic, no serious issues. Lieutenant, sir, we are here to escort you to sickbay and remind you that as per standard procedure, once you have been checked over, you are to report to the general's office for debriefing, says Fluggy, seeing that Giwi has a limp as well. No need for the escort, I'm fine. I can get there myself with no trouble, but thanks for the gesture. I'll be sure to report in once I'm done in the tank, says Giwi, pushing past them to proceed into the base. Being in slight shock because of the lieutenant's appearance, neither grunt noticed the clone sealing the space pod into a scroll. Maybe he doesn't want to look weak after losing the battle and failing his mission, Fluggy whispers to his companion, a little confused on why he didn't want to take the escort. Redia nods his head in agreement. Once Giwi is out of the sight of the control room workers, his clone meet him and handed over the scroll containing the sealed pod, then went to report to the medical bay. Standing up straight, the cuts and bruises go up as smoke, literally. Dashing through the base, the uninjured alien moves in the direction he knows the locker room is located. Looking around once he arrives, he notices he is the only being present. Opening his locker, he takes off his damaged armor and puts on a fresh set without the skirt this time and with pants instead of bloomers. What is wrong with these people? Is this base full of homos? Naruto thinks as he turns to leave. Just as he leaves the locker room, someone comes in and goes straight to their locker, not even noticing the discarded damaged armor that just disappeared in a small puff of smoke. Down the hall we find our lieutenant exploring the base. Well, I'm in the base now, may as well look around, he thought as he scouts his first infiltrated alien base. Flashback end. Okay, I have a bunch of pranks thought up, but which ones do I use? Oh, I know, I'll start small and prank the new trainees. This is going to be so much fun. He. They should be in the training field right now, he concludes as he moves to the training field. While heading to his destination, our disguised hero thinks about what he needed to do in preparation for the infiltration of the base. Of course, being the ex-ninja that he is, he has plenty of experience doing this sort of thing. Between Giwi's memories giving the layout of the base and mimicking his personality, something else Giwi's memories made easy, added with his extensive knowledge from different missions, the whole operation went without a hitch. It was almost too easy. Using a simple henge he was in with no trouble at all. Well, it was a simple henge for him, it was advanced for everyone else. His henge was unlike almost any other used by ninja. His was a real transformation, and no one realized that until Tsunade got a close look in his Waijutsu. Yeah, that was an awkward moment. It turned out Naruto had to learn the henge on his own when his teacher before Iruka wouldn't help. He had never been happier about being half-assed taught anything in his life. Anyway, all in all, while he could mimic the lieutenant's body and personality, he couldn't mimic the armor, it was too durable, so just to be on the safe side he got a new set when he got to base. That's where the damaged armor idea came in. Also didn't hurt that Frieza is in an ongoing feud with his brother for my home planet either. I just hope his brother doesn't go trying to cash in on the planet anytime soon. Even if there aren't very many, I still have people I care for living on that planet along with thousands of innocent people. Looking at the small seal on his neck in one of the numerous mirrors on the base, he thinks, what is it with strong bad guys? Are they so vain they need to look at themselves all the damn time? He thinks with disgust. I'm just glad I made that seal to hold my clothes and sword in place. I can seal them while wearing them and then unseal them back on. It really saves time and looks cool to boot. Naruto arrives at the training field to see the trainees standing in line waiting for their instructor. Naruto turns to his right and sees the instructor down the entrance hall moving towards his position. Thinking fast, Naruto walks in the direction the instructor is coming from. Just as the disguised Saiyan walks past his first victim, he turns around. In an undetectable movement hits him hard in the back of the neck, sending him cascading to the floor in sweet unconsciousness. Dragging the downed instructor to a nearby closet located at one of the corner junctions, he draws a penis on unconscious man's cheek for the hell of it and slips away unnoticed to meet with these new recruits. Training field. 4 trainees stand patiently waiting for their instructor. They're supposed to be learning how to control themselves under pressure and embarrassment so they can think straight when going up against opponents stronger than themselves. Of course they all thought they didn't need this lesson because they just got their key phasers and nobody can beat those things, right? Anyway, they spot their instructor coming towards them. He was 6 feet 5 inches with pink hair, purple skin and a dinosaur-like face. He was wearing the same skirt and bloomer version armor as them, or so they thought. Turning towards the instructor, the trainees stand at attention, waiting for his arrival. With the instructor, Instructor Sergeant Pipito walked towards his trainees for the day. He was supposed to give them a lesson on handling pressure and embarrassment. Well, something like that. At least that's what he read in the real Pipito's mind. Well, lucky for him and very unlucky for them, they were the only ones on the training field today. With Frieza obviously being trapped in the closet, he made sure that there were only cameras in the main hallways. All other places on the base were devoid of surveillance cameras of any kind. The freaky bastard may not believe in happiness and peace, but he does believe in privacy. Or maybe he just didn't want to be caught stalking his different subordinates. Anyway, as Pipito moved closer, one of his smug trainees, already believing this lesson wasn't important, spoke up. "Can you just hurry up and get this over with?" said the Rookie of the Year trainee, aka Sasuke wannabe. "Why are you in such a hurry? This is an important lesson. It could save your life one day," asked Pipito, honestly confused by this trainee's attitude. "This lesson is pointless," said trainee responded. "What opponents stronger than us could we face and lose to that aren't working for Frieza already?" says the trainee. The others think about that statement and nod their heads, agreeing with him. "Well, the person doesn't have to be stronger than you to beat you, ya know," replies Pipito as he smirks inwardly, feeling he wasn't gonna have to wait long to pull off this prank. "Oh yay, then how else could they beat us then?" asks another trainee. Naruto's smirk changes into a full-blown grin on the inside, while on the outside he lightly smiles, already knowing he was gonna enjoy being here until he found a way to get to Frieza undetected. He then grinned a little more on the outside as he begins his prank. Well, like this. Naruto then formed a ram seal and smoke formed all around the trainees. When the smoke cleared, the arrogant trainees were surrounded by hot nude alien women with only the clouds covering their assets. Needlessly to say, the trainees, each of which happened to be of a different species, shot back in a great rainbow-colored nosebleed and, like their actual instructor, slipped into sweet unconsciousness. A puff of smoke later and Naruto was back in his Giwi henge. He walks up to 4 unconscious trainees, taking out his rainbow-colored ink set, and went to work on the surprise he had for them when then woke up. Rule number 1 of combat: never judge a book by its cover. You might be too surprised to read as juicy content, he thought while remembering his preparations he had done for the upgraded Waijutsu, Alien Edition. Ideas for the alien women forms came from a magazine he had found in the locker room called Y Terrestrials. I guess anywhere you go, a Y woman is a Y woman. Ero Sennin would be so proud. Sniff sniff. I'm going where no man's gone before. He thought as he finished up and stood back to look at his handiwork. The Easy Flow Seal, a seal originally made for medical use. It was meant to help children and elderly people with bladder and bowel problems urinate and flush their system. Of course, if you don't have these problems, it has a nasty side effect. Every 30 minutes it will, without you knowing it, flush your system for you anyway. Ha ha ha, mentally laughing as he walks away, knowing that no one will know what the problem is or be able to find the seal, having matched the ink to their individual skin coloring. It was going to last for at least a week. Oh yes, so I'm so gonna enjoy it here. And enjoy it he did. For the next week he terrorized the poor saps in Frieza's base with prank after prank, and because of his mind-reading abilities and henge, he was never found out. He did things like turn all the bloomers hot pink whenever they were washed by putting a seal in the washing machine. Rigged glitter cannons in all the lockers and desks that would blast a colorful rainbow of sticky glitter all over the affected person. Put a seal in the healing tank that would add salt to the water once it filled up with someone inside. Ouch. And to add to that, it also dyed the person orange from head to toe. Of course, if said patient was already orange, it would cause them to turn green with purple, even painted the base pink with purple hearts and unicorns after having found Frieza's diary. It was pretty obvious to see that Naruto was having the time of life at the base, but pulling pranks wasn't the only thing he had done since he'd been there. Hell, a lot of the pranks had been done by clones. He spent most of his time training, but getting a hair up his butt one day he decided to check the genetic scanner machine he found. Disabling any security or recording features, he cut his thumb and ran an analysis on his blood. What he found amazed him. Not only was he 3/4 Saiyan, but the other quarter was weird. 1/4 was human, but the other was unknown. Using the comparison feature, he found 2 sets of genetics that were close to his. Apparently the first came from his maternal grandmother, Princess Tsunade. He searched the database for any information on her and found a far amount. Naruto found he was from Saiyan royalty apparently, not that this will change him any. He also found that he had at least one living relative, Vegeta. Well, as long as the guy isn't a complete, we may get along, he thought after reviewing all information he could find on that side of his family, and there was a lot but not much he felt too proud of. Moving on to the other record he found. It was of a child that looked exactly like his father. Apparently the original records were destroyed, but Frieza's father King Cold had made sure to have backup programs that downloaded all new child information into his database. It appeared that his father was a pure Saiyan that was sent to Elam in an effort to cleanse his taint by his own father. Looking deeper into the system, he was able to match the profile to the royal guard that he had seen from Giwi's mind. Fucking cock-sucking coward. Now I really am glad Dad was sent to Elam. I'd have killed that bastard of a grandfather myself if I would have been born near him. Grunted Naruto in disgust. Quickly copying all information on both sides of his family that he could find, he then asked the computer to run a probability scan on the effects and outcome of the genetic anomalies found in the records. After several long minutes the computer produced the results. Increased Reiki, or as they call it here, Kai production. Causes rapid cellular regeneration and increased mental functions. Only effective use in battle is against Kai-based fighters. Well, apparently these people don't know about chakra. I can think of several different ways to use this power in combination with my ninja arts. Naruto must. The only problem is these genes seem to be partially inactive, only affecting hair and eye color as well as preventing mind control programming. Well, that's still a plus in my book. While in the base he had to keep his power level suppressed to a certain point to hide his true power, but in a private training room he covered in suppression seals he could train to his heart's content. His power level had jumped to 150,000 and now he could sense power levels without a scouter easily. He still couldn't transform like he did against Giwi, but he was sure he was much stronger than he had been at the time, so it didn't matter. Main control room. Naruto was sitting in the control room taking a break from training and pranks in the hope of finding a way to test his power or finally go after Frieza. About this time it was reported the Ginyu Force were returning from their mission and came straight to the control room. As they came in, Naruto looked in their direction to salute them and Redia came up to talk to them. "Good, you've returned, sirs. We need you to go to planet Elam. We have—" Redia stops as he's interrupted by an emergency transmission. "Control room, do you read me?" says the voice of what sounds like an old woman coming from the intercom. "Yes, Lord Frieza, I hear you loud and clear. What can I do for you, my lord?" says Redia after frantically running to the control panel. "I thought Frieza was a guy. Why does he sound like an old lady?" Naruto thinks while listening in on the conversation. "I need you to send the Ginyu Force to Namek immediately. It would appear that Vegeta has decided to rebel against me and needs to be put in his place. Oh, and tell them to bring some extra scouters. Ours were destroyed by a couple of rambunctious Namekians," says Frieza as he cuts the transmission. Redia turns to the Ginyu Force just to hear the voice of Captain Ginyu say, "Well men, you heard the boss. Move out." Naruto looks at the Ginyu Force and one of Giwi's memories flashes to the front of his mind and sees his golden opportunity, while inwardly smirking. Going over to the one called Berter before he can leave the room, Naruto says, "Hey Berter, can I show you my new attack before you go?" asked Naruto. "Sure Giwi, but make it quick." "Okay," Berter replies. "Okay, follow me," says Naruto as he leads Berter to his training room. It turns out Giwi was trying to join the Ginyu Force and had looked up to Berter as a role model. Berter knew this of course, and not really liking Guido was trying to get his friend on the force in order to replace the green bug-eyed freak. 5 minutes later, Berter walks out of the training room and runs towards the launching pads. Man, that was easy. Knock him out, read his mind, destroy the evidence, and henge. Thought Naruto as he makes his way to the launching pads to blast off for Planet Namek. No one even noticing the switch, and no one ever would. At least not with what I have planned. Hey, as the Ginyu Force took off they never noticed the huge explosion behind them. The hand seal Berter was making in his pod, or the evil grin on his face. Frieza's spaceship on Namek. Frieza was not in a good mood. He had been recounting all the things that went wrong on this adventure for immortality. First, some old Namek destroyed the rest of their scouters and made it harder to find the Dragon Balls in Namekian villages. Next, some little twerps came and saved the last little Namek before he could get the locations of the other Dragon Balls and villages from him. He sent Dodoria after them, but he never came back, meaning he was either lost or dead. And it better be the latter, he thought angrily. Last and worst of all, Zarbon had encountered and captured Vegeta only for him to recover, steal what Dragon Balls they did have, and escape. Without their scouters, finding him was damn near impossible at the moment. In retaliation he had sent Zarbon after Vegeta, but just like Dodoria he's either lost or dead. Then he saw 5 space pods crash to the planet. He smirks at them but still had a sinking feeling in the pit of his stomach. I hope it's nothing, but I have this feeling something happened to my journal and equipment closet in my private chambers. He says to himself. In Berter's pod. Ha 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 ha, he used to wet the bed until a couple months ago and drinks out of a Teletubby's sippy cup. That's hilarious, laughed Naruto while reading Frieza's diary. Loving his choice of setting up the seal for the base's destruction in a weird toy closet in Frieza's private chambers so no one would find it. As a bonus, stumbled across a pink diary with rainbows and ponies on it. I haven't confirmed that he's gay yet, but if he isn't, he's still a freak and is so much like Orochimaru it's scary. He's shuddering while imagining the two as long-lost brothers. Seeing that they've arrived at their destination, Naruto quickly hides the diary in his armor for later distribution. Frieza's spaceship. After having to do some of the most stupid poses he has ever had to witness, let alone do. Naruto was trying to remain calm to keep from killing Captain Ginyu on the spot. Calm down, you can put an explosive on one of his stupid-looking horns later. Why is Frieza blushing? He thought as Frieza started giving them their assignment, trying to hide the blush. Ginyu Force, your assignment is to collect all 7 Dragon Balls and apprehend Vegeta. I want him alive, said Frieza. Probably for some sick bondage fantasy. I saw your toy closet, perv, yells Naruto mentally. Ginyu locks onto Vegeta's energy signature with his scouter. Wow, Vegeta's had quite a power-up, says Ginyu, turning his head in Vegeta's direction. 45,000, I expected the Prince of Saiyan to have higher power level than me. I can sense he's holding his power back, but not by much. I'd say about 60,000 is his max. He doesn't have all that much control either. He thought, sensing out for Vegeta with and without his scouter. Yes, it seems Vegeta learned some new tricks on his trip to Earth, comments Frieza. I heard about that on the base. Apparently Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz had tried to force Raditz's long-lost younger brother Kakarot into joining them. Apparently from the records I stole he's my cousin too. When he refused, Raditz kidnapped Kakarot's son. Naruto thought with disgust that a member of his family would do such a thing to his own nephew. Cousin Kakarot wasn't as strong as Raditz, who was said to be weaker than some trainees, not even having a power level higher than 1000. Kakarot had to team up with a Namek from their planet in order to defeat his own brother. Well, at least that mess was cleared up before I got close to this side of the galaxy. He continued to muse to himself. Vegeta and Nappa, who were on another planet at the time, heard something that caught their interest in Raditz's last transmission. They then went to the planet about a year later, only to be defeated by Kakarot, who had surpassed them with only a year of training. I can't wait to meet him. He sounds like he's strong. I wonder if he likes ramen. Anyway, in the end Nappa was killed and Vegeta just barely escaped with his life. He, bet that put a dent in his ego. Thought Naruto, remembering the reports he read. There seems to be only 2 of people with him, but are much weaker, says Ginyu, waiting for an explanation. 1,500 each, I'd say, but both are obviously suppressing their power. One has almost as much power as Vegeta does. Naruto thought, sensing the others like he had done with Vegeta. It would appear Vegeta has formed a little gang with the Earthlings. They're insignificant. You may kill them without consequence, answered Frieza. With that everyone yells in excitement. Earthlings, isn't Earth the planet Vegeta attacked? Why would they be with him? I wonder. Thought Naruto, trying to puzzle out what was going on. After another stupid dance with Frieza looking far too excited about it. They take off to complete their assignment. Man, Frieza Teme is a freak, and on a different note, I'm so gonna get that horn-headed jackass for this. Naruto thought while taking off with rest of the Ginyu Force. 30 minutes later, Naruto was watching the current scene, bored and disgusted. It didn't take long for them to find Vegeta along with Krillin and Gohan. He learned their names after managing to read Krillin's mind before the fighting started. Naruto played it off as wanting to rub Krillin's bald shinny dome for luck. The blonde Saiyan learned that the Dragon Balls actually grant wishes. Well, that's something new, and Krillin and Gohan want to wish their friends back that were killed in their battle with Vegeta and Nappa on Earth. Okay, I'm liking Vegeta less and less now. The guy has an ego that can stand toe-to-toe with Sasuke Tame's ego, and the two would come out in a draw. Also, with the Namek from their planet, Piccolo, dead, they had to come here for the Dragon Balls, but standing against an overwhelming foe like Frieza, they had to team up with Vegeta just to survive. He also learned of Vegeta's and Frieza's wanting to wish for immortality, and it made him sick. Yeah, no birthday presents for that creep. The fact that they could terrorize a whole planet and its people for such a selfish wish was too much like Orochimaru and Madara. So here he was watching Riku beat the crap out of Gohan, who was part Saiyan like him and family to boot. It made him sick. He watched as Guido got killed by Vegeta. He was honestly surprised the green little shit lasted so long. That time freeze technique was just a cheap trick. After Vegeta killed Guido, he attacked Riku, only completely fry his armor but didn't do any significant damage. Laughing the whole time, Riku proceeded to hand Vegeta his ass for him. If it wasn't for Gohan and Krillin saving him, the Saiyan Prince would be dead, and the only thing those two heroes got for their trouble was to get beaten too. Which brings us to the beating Gohan is getting now, since Krillin got taken out by a swift kick to head. Poor Baldy, I'm going to have to fix him when we are done here. It wouldn't be so bad if Riku didn't dance around like Fruity a ballerina. That was just wrong on so many levels. Gohan was without a doubt the bravest and strongest kid he had ever seen, that goes without saying, of course. Him being almost as strong as Vegeta in power was very helpful to the little half Saiyan. Too bad Gohan doesn't have nearly as much battle experience as the Prince Prick, but he makes up for it in determination. It's like looking at myself as a kid, only with Lee's haircut. I have to do something. I can't just let him die, thought Naruto as he was about to attack Riku. But before he could jump in and stop the fight, Naruto sensed a huge power, and caught a glimpse of a spaceship landing a short distance away. Well, this should prove interesting if this person is an ally, but bad if they are an enemy. The door to the ship opens to reveal a man in an orange fighting gi with a blue undershirt and blue boots, also sporting blue wristbands. Naruto recognizes said man as Goku from Krillin's, appears in the middle of the battlefield, stopping the carnage that was taking place. Naruto watches as he give Gohan and Krillin a bean, and they get up as good as new, almost like they didn't just get their asses kicked. Wow, that's nifty trick, Gi says offhandedly. Naruto is then surprised to watch Goku read Krillin's mind the same way he had earlier. So I'm not the only one who can do it, huh? He smirks, thinking that this guy might be stronger than him, and was itching to see him in action. After he reads Krillin's mind, he tosses a bean to Vegeta despite the protests of Krillin and Gohan, saying it's a thank you for saving them from Guido. He then proceeds to face Riku alone, again against the protest of Gohan and Krillin. Watching Goku, who he now learns is also Kakarot the Saiyan from Earth, Naruto is practically jumping up and down after seeing him take out Riku in one blow. So this is my cousin? I like the outfit and he seems strong. I'd really like to fight him and see how good he is. All the while fooling the scouters into believing he only had a power level of 1000. Seeing Riku get taken out, Naruto realizes he can finally stop masquerading as one of Frieza's henchmen. Hey Berter, you think we should double team him? Asked G-Ice, turning around to look at Berter only to get a ki blast to face, sending him flying. Goku, Vegeta, Krillin, and Gohan look at the incident in surprise, never thinking that one of Frieza's elite would turn on another. G-Ice then flies back towards Berter angry. "What the hell was that about Berter?" yells G-Ice. Not Berter," Naruto replies while stripping down to his boxers, making sure to hang on to Frieza's diary. This freaked everyone out to say the least. "Name's Naruto." Naruto finishes as he drops the henge and hitting the seal on his neck to release his cloths all at the same time. When the smoke cloud clears, everyone is even more freaked out than before. Standing in front of them is no longer a huge blue alien, but a Saiyan of average height. At this point, G-Ice decides to take off, knowing he couldn't take on all of them. The other four didn't even notice that he had left. They were too busy watching Naruto, each with different thoughts. For Goku it was, he has a tail? Could he be another Saiyan? Vegeta said that we were that last two Saiyans, and he looks even more surprised than me. Vegeta's was, he looks a lot like Dimetro, one of my father's personal guards. Could he been his son? That's not possible. Dimetro only had one son, and that was Bardock. He looks younger than Kakarot too. Krillin's was, I knew there was something weird about him when rubbed my head. He smiled at me afterward, but it didn't look mean at all. It kinda reminded me of Goku's smile. Gohan's was, he has a tail like I used to. I wonder if we're related. He doesn't look evil at least, but better stay on my guard just in case. Naruto, confused on what to do next, does what he normally does in these situations. Slaps on his goofy grin, scratches the back of his head and says, "Yo. What's up, my three cousins and one bald guy?" They were all so caught up in their thoughts that they didn't notice G-Ice returning with Captain Ginyu. Naruto chuckled as he explained how he ended up on Namek by impersonating a member of Ginyu Force. He had also told the gathered warriors how he ended up on Frieza's base and some of his life back on his home planet, Elam. "Oh, I see," said Goku with a look of understanding on his face. He, Krillin, Gohan, and Vegeta had just listened to Naruto like a captivated audience. Then something clicked within Krillin's mind. "Did you say that you're these three's cousin?" Yeah, but there's no time for an explanation right now. Aren't there still, bad guys we have to deal with?" responds Naruto. "He took out Giwi and Berter. He definitely has some strength, but I can't tell how much. It's too well hidden." "Wait, did he just say that he's related to all of us? There's no way that's possible," thought Vegeta when a question suddenly forms in his mind. "Are you related to someone named Dimetro? He was part of my father's royal guard until he was found dead with his wife. It was apparently poison. I never met him before, but part of my training was to review battle records of the elite guard," asked Vegeta, remembering one of his father's guards which looked a lot like Naruto, and come to think of it, Kakarot looks a lot like Dimetro too. "Yeah, that's mine and Goku's grandfather's name." Naruto spat out the word, grandfather, like it was poison in his mouth. "My father's name was Minato Namikaze." Looking at Goku, the Namikaze heir continued, "Our bastard of a grandfather didn't bother to name him before he disowning him. Then the prick shipped him off to Elam to die," Naruto replied while spitting on the ground. "What?" thought Goku. He then turned to look at Vegeta, intrigued that someone had known of his grandfather. "Okay, I get it now, you're a half Saiyan, but what's with that weird hair color? You must have got your blonde hair from your mother, because all full Saiyans have jet black hair that doesn't change from birth." Vegeta stated, finally understanding some of Naruto's heritage. "Actually, I'm more than half Saiyan. My grandmother was Princess Tamatte. My mother was the half Saiyan. I'm sure you know who Princess Tamatte was, Vegeta. After all, she was your aunt." This shocked the hell out of the Saiyan prince. "There's no way," thought Vegeta while Naruto continued. "I actually get my hair color from my father, though his was a bit brighter than mine, but that doesn't matter right now. I'll explain everything if and when we survive all this crap," Naruto replied. Before anyone can make a comment to the shocking revelations, Naruto just reveled. All gathered picked up two powers heading their way. "Who is that coming our way?" asked Goku, still in a mild case of shock. "Oh, it must G-Ice and old Captain Body Snatch," said Vegeta, looking annoyed that they had let G-Ice get away in the first place. "Captain Body Snatch?" thought Naruto and Goku, confused for a moment until a memory from Berter popped into Naruto's mind. "Hey guys, be careful with Ginyu. He can switch bodies and take over yours. Well, I'll leave them to you guys. There's someone I want meet on this planet. See y'all later," yells Naruto as he takes off into the air. Plus, if Ginyu's ability is what I think it is, I don't want to fight him before I can see it in action and figure out a way around it. Besides, if he survives, then it'll be more fun when I drive him crazy with the pranks I've got planned for him. Sorry about this, guys. Good luck. Hey, wait, yelled Vegeta, but it was too late, he was already gone. Coward, he grunted out. He then scowled and turned around facing the rest of the gathered warriors, promising to see his supposed cousin's power the next time they met. As Naruto leaves, Goku turns to Krillin and Gohan while ignoring Vegeta. You two go get the Dragon Balls. I'm pretty sure Frieza hasn't used them yet, and he's no longer at his ship. Vegeta and I will meet up with y'all after we take care of these two. Gohan and Krillin were reluctant to leave Goku with Vegeta but did it anyway, knowing Goku wasn't going to change his mind. After they left, Goku turned to Vegeta. So who's this Daitro and Princess Tomo he mentioned? Goku asked, not realizing how badly he messed up their names. It's Dimetro and Princess Tamatte, Kakarot. Dimetro was one of my father's royal guards like I said earlier. Weren't you listening? Anyway, Dimetro only had one son from the records that I reviewed. So that, Minato Namikaze, that guy mentioned couldn't have been his son. As for Princess Tamatte, like that clown mentioned, she was my aunt and was slated to be queen over my father due to her power levels. If what I remember is correct, she was sent to planet Elam to conquer it. As you already know, when Saiyan children are born, they are sent off to planets to conquer as a test. They're later retrieved and brought back to planet Vegeta for training. The planets they're sent to are normally weak depending on the child's power level when born, and in the end it's the parent's choice what planet the child is sent to. Princess Tamatte was considered an elite and had a higher power level than even my father did. That's why she was given the highest threat level planet there was at that time. Explained Vegeta. So what happened to her? Asked Goku, a little disgusted that his race would do that to their children, but glad that it was done or he wouldn't be who he is right now. No one knows. Most of the low to middle level warriors couldn't even conquer it in a group. Something about the inhabitants having a weird power source that let them control the elements. Anyway, as soon as Tamatte's pod crashed down, all contact was lost. It was assumed that she was killed in the crash or shortly thereafter. Upon further investigation, it was determined that the pod crashed in the middle of a battleground but was never found. With no evidence of a body, she was marked, missing in action, presumed dead, finished Vegeta just as Ginyu and G-Ice arrive. Goku turns toward the two landing aliens ready for a fight but was now even more interested in this Naruto person than before. With Naruto. Okay, let's scan the planet for my target, said Naruto as he stretches out his senses to find all the large power sources on the planet. Let's see, 4 powers to the east. That where Vegeta and Goku are. Okay, Gohan and Krillin are heading to the north from there. Far to the west, I can sense Frieza and another power heading further west. I don't want to go there yet. A real small power is heading in the opposite direction as Frieza. There's a small power in between Frieza and the power heading in the opposite direction. It's small but there's something weird about it. I think it's my Targa. Help, broken from thoughts by a yell. Naruto looks for the source of the distress call. On an island not too far away, he sees a blue-haired woman running from 2 of Frieza's large and stupid low-level grunts. Suppressing his power to prevent detection by any scouters, Naruto moves toward them to see what's going on. As Naruto gets closer, he recognizes the woman as Bulma, the third person that came to the planet with Krillin and Gohan. Of course they'd leave someone with no combat ability on a planet full warriors to fend for themselves. Morons, thought Naruto as he was about to save Bulma. He may already like Gohan and Krillin, but he knew they would make horrible ninja. Naruto was now finally within distance to hear what was being said, but decided to wait for the right moment to take them out and still remain undetected. Maybe we can take her back to Lord Frieza. She does kinda look like one of those Namekians or whatever they're called, said one of the idiotic behemoths. Take her back for what? And Namekians are green with antennas. She doesn't look anything like them at all, you moron, thought Naruto as he positioned himself to take the 2 Nimrods out. Yeah, and maybe he'll give us a reward, said the other behemoth counterpart. Yeah, I'll be sure to grant that reward instead of the closet perv. A long vacation in the next dimension. The 2 buffoons jumped to capture Bulma. She had long since closed her eyes and was shaking in fear awaiting the inevitable. She knew if she survived this and if she ever saw Krillin or Gohan again she would give them both the nutcheck of a lifetime. The attack never came and she heard two thuds coming from where the attackers were. She opened her eyes a crack, then all the way in surprise. Standing over the two corpses with his hand holding some kind of weird-looking knife that was wrapped with white cloth or tape and a ring at the end, was a blonde-haired teen dressed in a black with orange jacket, black baggy cargo pants, combat boots, and a sword strapped to his back. His long braid and tail whipping in the wind. Wait a minute, a tail? Bulma thought, looking at the brown and black-tipped tail again, and came to a quick conclusion. You must be with Vegeta. What do you want with me? Get back, she yelled frantically while trying to move away from this new potential threat. She was still pretty scared from her earlier predicament and thought she was being thrust right into another even worse one. Huh, Vegeta, why would she think I was with him, and why is that a bad thing? Thought Naruto, confused. Then he remembered, that's right, Vegeta attacked Earth. Yeah, he's really getting high on my shit list now, he concluded, preparing to repeat his story of who he was to her. First, let's move to a new location, he stated while putting his kunai back into its holster. Those two won't be waking up again at all, but you can never be too sure with aliens. Also, I can't destroy their bodies without being detected, Naruto said, walking over to pick Bulma up. Huh? Was all Bulma got out, finally looking closely to see the two giants from before lying on their stomachs with their faces in the dirt, strange colored blood oozing from stab wounds to their necks. 10 minutes later on a different island. So you were undercover as one of Frieza's elite warriors trying to get close to him, said Bulma after listening to Naruto's story. She was very impressed that someone so young was so skilled. Yeah, that's about it, Bulma Obachan, Naruto replied. Pow, ouch. Why'd you hit me? Yelled Naruto after being hit on the head. Don't call me old, damn it, I'm only 28. That isn't old, answered Bulma, still seething from the Obachan crack. At least she doesn't have super strength, he thought while still rubbing his abused head. Just then his stomach growled, making itself known. It has been a while since I've eaten anything, he thought. You wouldn't happen to have anything to eat, would ya? Asked Naruto, rubbing the back of his head, grinning sheepishly. If it wasn't for the blonde hair and blue eyes, I'd think he was Goku, she thought as she replied. Yeah, follow me, as she grabbed the dino capsule for the capsule house from its case. The blue-green-haired woman walked off a bit, pressed the plunger on the capsule and tossed it. A poof of smoke and a weird popping noise later, the two stood in front of a decently large house. Naruto was completely surprised to see a house pop out of the pill she threw. This must be Earth's form of sealing, impressive, he thought, following Bulma into the house. 5 minutes and an empty refrigerator later. Bulma watched slack-jawed and a little disgusted, as Naruto finished off the last piece of ham in the refrigerator. Yep, exactly like Goku, she thought with a sigh. Naruto then burped and turned back to Bulma, looking sheepish again. Sorry about that. It's just been a while since I've had actual food and not that mush crap they had on Frieza's base, Naruto said, and then he got a whiff of his own body odor. Haven't had a bath in a while either, he thought. Do you have a shower I could use too? He asked, still looking sheepish. Bulma just pointed to a room in the back of the house. You can join me if you want, Naruto said, but had to duck out of the way of a flying plate heading for his head. Just kiddin', Obachan. Naruto laughed as he ducked into the bathroom to avoid another thrown plate. Well, not totally though, hee. 5 minutes later, back outside. Well, I'll be seeing ya, Bulma Obachan. A full and refreshed Naruto said with a mischievous grin, knowing that name got on her nerves. He was about to take off when Bulma grabbed his arm, stopping him. Hey, stop calling me old, you pervert. You can't just leave me here. What if someone else finds me? Bulma said, not loosening her grip even an inch. I guess you're right about that, but what do you want me do? Naruto asked while ignoring the pervert comment. Take me with you, of course, Bulma said as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. What do you mean take you with me? He asked. Well, it's better than staying here by myself like it has been since I arrived on this planet, she stated. Yay, and it's not like I'm going off to fight someone. Besides, she is kinda cute and, most of all, right. It is dangerous for her to be out here alone, he thought, then looked at Bulma and answered, okay, Obachan. You can come along, just hop on, he smirked while crouching down in front of her. After another hit to the head and a reprimand for calling her old again, Naruto picked Bulma up piggyback style and took off for his original target. 15 minutes later. So who are you going to see? Bulma asked, now curious about this person he wanted to meet. Oh, the Namek that made the Dragon Balls, Guru. I wanted to ask him about a wish I was interested in, Naruto answered. Oh, and that would be? Asked Bulma, even more curious than before. What is this? 20 questions. He thought, with a sweet drop forming on the side of his head. I wanted to see if it could bring some old friends of mine back to life. Before Bulma could ask anything else, Naruto stopped, suddenly spotting about 12 of Frieza's men in front of them. Frieza must have sent them to take care of Guru, he thought as he was observing them from the air. Noticing the new arrivals, one of the men says, "Hey, look what we have here, gentlemen." "Looks like a boy taking his mother out for a joyride," said another, chuckling. "I'm not that old, damn it," yelled Bulma, pissed about being called old again. The other's sweet dropped at Bulma's outburst. Turning to his comrades, the leader says, "Well, let's give him a lift to the afterlife." While they were interacting with each other, Naruto was coming up with a plan to get them out this situation. Landing near the group, he thinks, there are 12 goons and they all have a power level of around 1000. I should be able to take them out no problem, but I should limit my power level to 10,000 so I don't catch anyone's attention. He concluded as he whispers to Bulma to hold on tight. Let's see, Mommy has a power level of 15 and Sunny Boy has about 500. This shouldn't be hard at all. Tell ya what, kid, we'll let you have a free shot just to be fair, said the goon, measuring their power levels. You sure about that? I may hurt you, Naruto states, trying to look innocent while on the inside laughing his ass off at their stupidity. Oh, I'm so gonna enjoy this ass kicking. The goons laughed at that. Not nearly as much as we're gonna hurt you, kid. So hurry up before we change our minds, the same goon said. Okay, if that's what you want, he yelled as he threw a ki wave at the one he had been talking to, completely vaporizing him while charging another attack in his other hand. Startled by the sudden death of their comrade, they weren't prepared for the barrage of ki blasts that came flying their way right after the first shot. Two unlucky idiots weren't quick enough to move and met with a swift end within the barrage. Now focused back on the fight, 4 of the goons surrounded Naruto in a square and shot ki beams at him. The shots from each of the remaining goons collided with Naruto's form from 4 different directions and exploded with a cloud of smoke. When the smoke cleared, the attackers saw one of their comrades instead of the duo falling to the ground, smoking, charged and dead. Before they could even look around for Naruto, 2 of the 4 goons that had circled Naruto and Bulma fell to the ground. Their heads rolling from their necks with a spurt of blood pulsing from their no longer living forms once they hit the ground. The last 6 goons looked to the location that their 2 now headless comrades had once been, just to find Naruto with his back to them, and in his hand was Kurahime. How's that for a free shot? Naruto said while smirking as he looked over his shoulder to the remaining goons. Spinning Kurahime to remove the blood from the sword, he slides it back into its scabbard, careful not to hurt the leech that was attached to his back. Bulma was, of course, still on his back, shivering with her eyes shut tight and with her limbs wrapped around the Saiyan's body, holding on for dear life. Shock turned into rage as the remaining forces realized that this kid had just taken out half of their group in only a few moves. Rage turned into determination to see this brat dead at their feet. The group then attacked before anything else could happen. As the first attacker came in for a punch aimed at the blonde's head, Naruto jumps over the fist and connects with a roundhouse kick to the face of his new attacker. Using the momentum from his last attack, Naruto continues with his rotation, sending a hard snap kick to the next one. This shot connected with the goon's gut, knocking him back, breathless and cringing in pain from the force of the blow. Still using the same momentum, he keeps spinning around, sweeping the third one's legs out from under him and plants a kick with the back the leg he was spinning on. Coming to a stop, crouched in front of the fourth, Naruto then spins to his left and swings back and upward at the goon with his sword in his left hand, but the goon manages to dodge, but barely. The goon is startled to see that there was actually no sword in Naruto's left hand. He then looks down in front of him and is shocked to see the sword slashing upward in the same manner he thought it had before his dodge, but this time in his attacker's right hand. Unable to dodge, the fourth goon is sliced in half right up the middle, from crotch to cranium, causing the 5th and 6th goons to stop in their tracks. The now 5 goons regroup with each other to rethink their strategy, not even realizing they were stupidly turned away from Naruto. For someone with a power level of 500, he's damn good. What do we do? Said a goon rechecking his scouter. Naruto had taken a tip from Goku's book by suppressing his power to throw off his opponent's scouter during a battle. I know, and he extremely fast too. Maybe if two of us grab him, then someone could blast him, said another. Okay, sounds like a plan to me, said the first one. Before they could turn around and try their plan out, a kunai came flying in between their little huddle, jamming into the skull of the one that had finalized the plan. All except the one that came up with the plan scattered from the loose of yet another comrade. Spotting a little flaming piece of paper on the handle of the kunai still lodged in the dead goon's head, he wonders to himself, "What's that?" as he moves in for a closer inspection. Just when he was close enough to make out the tag, boom! Naruto was watching the whole incident with a stoic face, but on the inside he was holding his sides cracking up. These guys are so retarded. I haven't had this much fun in a while, well, if you don't count what I did to Frieza's base, that is. He. He then looks to see two goons attempting to grab hold of him. I could dodge and finish this quickly, but my prankster side really wants me to keep messing with him. Naruto then let them grab hold of his arms to prevent them from touching Bulma. She was of course still latched to Naruto's back with her eyes closed just as tightly as before. "Hey, we got you now, twerp. You're gonna pay for messing with Frieza's squadron," said one of the goons holding his arms. "Yay, take this," yelled the third goon as he sent a blast at Naruto, hoping to finish him off. When the blast hits Naruto, it explodes and covers the area in smoke. When it clears, Naruto and Bulma are nowhere to found. "We must have vaporized him. That's what you get for screwing with Frieza," said one of the guys that were holding Naruto in place, only to get hit by a ki wave from his own comrade that helped hold Naruto in place. The last goon watches as Naruto drops the henge, revealing Bulma and Naruto unscathed. The final goon then officially pisses his pants. "Who the hell are you?" he yells, scared out of his mind. "Oh cool, I've always wanted to be asked this question while in combat. Now what would be a cool thing to say? Your worst nightmare? Nah, overused. Your executioner? Nope, that's always been lame to me," as Naruto continued rambling in his head, lost in thought. The distracted teen didn't even notice the goon running away. When Naruto had his answer, he turned to look at the goon, only to see him running away. "What the hell, you? I didn't even get to use my line, that bastard," Naruto said to himself and tossed a ki blast at the fleeing alien, hitting him even with the distance between them. The blast connected, exploding and killing him instantly. "Oh well, it's over now, Obachan. Let's go meet Guru now," he said. Bulma was still so scared she didn't even register the "Obachan" comment. She finally opened her eyes to look around and calms down, seeing no further attackers around. Once Bulma calmed down enough, the duo took off again, heading for their original destination. 40 minutes after Frieza and Nail left to fight each other. Approaching a large pillar of stone, Naruto and Bulma notices a large white structure with several spikes poking out and a gaping hole in the side of the building. A little shocked by the hole, Naruto lands and allows Bulma to get off his back. "This must be the place, but that hole has me concerned. I hope this Guru guy is still alive in there. Let's go inside." "Get back on," letting Bulma climb back onto his back. Floating up to the gap in the wall, the duo lands in front of the large body of the Namek. Approaching the old green alien, Bulma says, "This is the Namek that made the Dragon Balls here?" "He's a lot bigger than Kami," said Bulma, imagining the two side by side. "That's because I'm a lot older than the son of Katas," said a rough and tired voice, startling them both. "Hello Naruto, Uzumaki and Bulma briefs. I am Guru and I have been awaiting your arrival," said Guru, addressing them both. "How do you know our names?" asked Bulma, but was surprised when it was Naruto that answered. "He knew we were coming. Am I right?" asked Naruto. "Yes, I have known for a while that I would be visited by you, child of prophecy," answered Guru. "Child of prophecy? Only the toads have ever called me that," Naruto repeated, not understanding what he meant. "Yes, for some time it was predicted that you would do things that would affect the universe in a huge way. Whether those things will be good or bad, no one knows. Only you can decide, but that is for the distant future, and you are not the only child of prophecy. You already met another," he finished. Okay, if you knew I was coming, you should already know what my question is, correct?" asked Naruto. Yes, I do know what it is you seek, but unfortunately the answer is no. Sadly, the Dragon Balls can only resurrect someone who has died within 1 year's time. Said Guru. Bowing his blonde head, Naruto replies, "That's okay. It was a selfish wish anyway, but thanks for answering, old man. Farewell." Naruto begins to walk off but is stopped by Guru's voice. "Hold on, Naruto. They may not be able to be resurrected, but you may be able to meet them if you speak with King Kai in Otherworld," said Guru before coughing a bit. "Huh, what do you mean?" asked Naruto confused. "King Kai is the guardian that watches over our part of the universe. He even trains a few of the warriors he considers worthy. He even trained Goku. While I can't contact him myself, I'm sure Goku can. King Kai would be able to let you meet the ones you wish to see," answered Guru. "Really? Thanks a lot then, Guru," Naruto says with some excitement in his voice. Turning to leave once again, he is stopped by Guru once more. "One more thing, young Naruto. You know that at your current level, even if you, Vegeta, Goku, Gohan, and Krillin combine your strength, you don't stand a chance against Frieza, right?" asked the eldest Namek. "Yay, I know. I read his diary and he has 3 transformations. Each one is stronger than the last, but the only thing we can do is try," he answered, looking up at Guru with a reassuring smile and fierce determination showing in his blue eyes. Chuckling at the young man's look, Guru replies, "As much as your smile fills me with hope, all of you still may not win, but I can help you. If you will allow me to." "What? How?" questioned Naruto, looking interested but not expecting much. Figuring that any help would be beneficial, the Saiyan motions for Guru to continue. After a coughing a few times, Guru continues, "I don't have much time left in this world, but before I go I can help you awaken your sleeping powers." "Huh? I have sleeping powers? You mean like you did for Krillin and Gohan?" Thinking for a second, he continues, "Well, it couldn't hurt any, but I don't think it will change our chances too much." Frieza's diary said that his second transformation puts his power level over 1 million. "I'm just above 150,000. There's no contest," said Naruto, knowing that this wouldn't make a difference. "For you it would be enough. Something you have never known is that more than 80% of your potential and power has always been kept from you because it was and still is keeping an even greater power in check," said Guru. "The Kyuubi? But I thought he was completely absorbed after those seals were placed on me," stated Naruto, not truly understand what he meant. "In a sense, but you never gained its power because your power couldn't beat it into submission and make it your own. On top of that, you've only had half the Kyuubi's chakra. The toads have the other half sealed in a scroll. I will help you gain control over all of it plus the sealed half. All you have to do is summon the scrolled toad and have him complete the Kyuubi's chakra. Once completed, I will start the test to awaken your sleeping powers," explained Guru. "Okay, then if I summon the scrolled toad, we can get started?" asked Naruto. Guru nodded. Biting his thumb enough to get it to bleed, he started running through the hand seals. Throughout all of this, Bulma stood off to side confused, but she figured time was of the essence and she'd ask Naruto later. Summoning jutsu. Naruto shouts out after finishing the seals and slams his hand down onto the floor of the house. After a puff of smoke, a toad Naruto recognized as Fukasaku stood alongside a toad standing on a long scroll. "Naruto, where have you been? Wait, are you on planet Namek? What are you doing here?" questioned Fukasaku, looking at Naruto expecting an explanation. "Hey Pa, long time no see, but I don't have a lot of time right now. I'll answer your questions later," he said before turning to the scrolled toad. "Are you Geritora, the scrolled toad?" he asked. "Yay, what do ya need, kid?" Geritora asked. "I need you to complete the Kyuubi's power," Naruto answered. "What, are you serious? Do you think you can handle it?" questioned Geritora. "Yes, and could you hurry, I don't have much time," he said, getting annoyed by all the questions. "Alrighty kid, you asked for it," said Geritora, unrolling the scroll and rolls it around Naruto. Geritora then palmed the outside of the scroll. "There, it's done," said Geritora as the scroll rolls back up with a snap. "Good luck," he says as he puffs back to the summoning world. Naruto drops to his knees in pain, holding his stomach. It feels like something was trying to claw its way out, and in a way it was. Once the pain subsided enough for him to stand with Bulma's help, he moves toward Guru, who was filling Fukasaku in on all the things that had happened that he knew of. "So this Frieza is trying to gain immortality. Naruto and a few others are trying to stop him, but he's too much for them. So, as a way to better their chances, Naruto is trying to gain control of all his potential and make the Kyuubi's power his own. Fukasaku listing off all the things Guru told him. Guru nods his head in confirmation. "I'm ready, Guru," said Naruto, finally making it over to Guru. "Very well, come and stand by my side," said Guru. Nodding, Naruto moves toward the old Namek and stands beside Fukasaku. Fukasaku hopes onto the Saiyan's shoulder and looks at Naruto. "Naruto-chan, you sure do get into some of the most interesting predicaments. Okay, I'm gonna leave for now, but Naruto, you better contact us ASAP. Ma's been worried sick. Oh, and good luck." Fukasaku then disappear back to the summoning world. "Okay Naruto, you must know that for this I can't just awaken you powers like it did with the others. You have far too much sleeping power and a power that isn't quite yours yet. You must take a test and pass. If you pass, the Kyuubi's power and some of its essence will fuse with your own along with the 80% of potential used to keep that power in check. If you fail you will die and the Kyuubi will return in full effect. Are you ready?" asked Guru. "As ready as I'll ever be," Naruto said, giving Guru a thumbs up and his typical foxy grin. "Very well. Let us begin," Guru said, placing his hand on Naruto's head. Naruto then completely blacks out and his body is covered by an orb of red and blue energy. "Good luck, Naruto," says Guru as he then closes his eyes to rest. Mount Myobokuzan in the summoning world. Fukasaku, Shima, and Gamabunta sit before the great toad sage watching Naruto on his crystal ball. "What's gonna happen to the Gaki after this process is all over?" asked Gamabunta, a little worried about Naruto. The great toad sage looked on before answering. "The universe will either have a great hero of epic proportions or an evil the universe has never seen." The four sat and continued to watch intently, hoping that the result would be former. Afterworld. Sitting around a large table, in a large home, were a group of people that are considered as legends to the ninja world, all with halos above their heads. There was the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, known for his wood release jutsu and was the founder of Konoha. Next to the first was his brother, the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju, known for his brilliant tactical mind and water-style jutsu. The third Hokage sat next to his sensei, known as the Professor, God of Shinobi, and Old Man, Hiruzen Sarutobi. Next to him was his own student and close friend, the great toad sage Jiraiya. Many other friends and family were in this home, laughing, drinking and eating their fill. All were telling tales of their time on their homeworld and enjoying the peace they had earned with their own lives and blood. At the head of the table was the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, hailed as the greatest Hokage to ever live. He was smiling and laughing at the jokes his sensei and predecessors were telling. To his right was his beautiful wife, the bloody red Habanero or the Red Death, depending on who you talk to, Kushina Uzumaki. She was also laughing and having a good time with the others, when all of a sudden a cold feeling erupted in the pit of her stomach. "What is this feeling? Naruto? What are you doing, son? I feel the presence of the fox. What is going on?" Noticing his wife's pale face, Minato asks, "Honey, what's wrong?" Then he feels the same thing as the woman he had just addressed. "It's the seal, isn't it?" Kushina nods her head in response to her love's question. "But I thought he had tamed that infernal fox with your help years ago." "I don't know what's going on, Minato-kun. All I know is that my baby is going to be fighting for his life and the lives of the rest of all of us." She replies as tears start to stream down her cheeks and she grips her husband's hand with worry clearly evident on her face. All conversation stopped instantly when the mention of the Kyuubi was made. The others asked what was going on and were briefed on what the two parents knew. Everything stopped as Jiraiya chuckled and looked at all gathered together and said, "Don't worry guys. Naruto will be fine. He tamed that fox before and he will do it again. I may not know what is going on or why, but I know my student. He is the strongest, most stubborn, bull-headed Gaki to ever be born. He will not fail. He will overcome whatever situation that he has been thrown into and come out the other side stronger and more determined than he went in. I for one, believe in him no matter what." This statement shocked most of the gathered guests but not the third or Naruto's parents. Nodding their agreement with Jiraiya's statement, the two hosts of the party asked their guests to continue with their meal and conversation. The four individuals that had known Naruto and that were closest to him thought at the same time, whatever you're doing Naruto, kick that bastard fox's ass. Naruto Mindscape. Naruto stood looking around trying to figure out where he was. He was standing in the middle of a battlefield surrounded by a forest. Slain warriors lay all around him. The smell of blood and death thick in the air. Then he hears a rumble and starts to feel the ground shake like an earthquake was happening. Jumping out the forest in all of its glory is the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Strutting up with confidence to our blonde hero. The demon continued to move closer and closer until Naruto can feel the hot rancid breath on his face. Smirking at his container, the fox says, "We meet again, fleshbag." Naruto's Mindscape. "We meet again, fleshbag," said the nine-tailed fox. Evil intent pouring from the beast. "What's it been? 2 years?" said Kyuubi with a smug foxy grin pasted on his face. 2 years and 4 months actually, furball, answered Naruto already annoyed. "Still no respect I see." "Well, that will change soon," said Kyuubi still smug as ever. "Oh, and why is that, fleabag?" questioned Naruto, pretty much guessing what was coming next. "Because my pea-brained friend. Once I kill you I'll be free again to terrorize whoever and whatever I want. Besides, this time you don't have your mommy here to help you like the last time we fought. When we fought before I only had half of my power, now I am complete and you are still the weak little boy you've always been," answered Kyuubi, thinking defeating Naruto would be easy. "And what makes you think it will be that easy?" questioned Naruto with his eyebrow cocked up. "Simple mortal, from the little glimpse I saw of your memories of these last 2 years. The demon chuckled sinisterly before continuing. "Imagine my surprise and pure glee when I learned that you were banished from your little village. Though you may put up a good front, your spirit is completely broken. I also know that without your little friends driving you or the use of my chakra to help you, you are nothing. You are now without a purpose or someone to protect. You are nothing more than a weak abandoned tool," said Kyuubi, trying to play with Naruto's mind like he used to. "You don't think I've improved over that last 2 years?" asked Naruto, trying to confirm his suspicion. "I don't know how much you've improved. How much stronger could you get by yourself? All your life you depended on others to drive you. You have nothing and no one now to bail you out. You are fully at my mercy, of which I will show not an ounce," said Kyuubi, knowing he would enjoy beating the brat that kept him locked up all these years and took a part of his own power. For that humiliation, the fox vowed to himself to beat the blonde monkey into the ground and crushing what little spirit he had left before killing him. Naruto grinned like the Cheshire Cat inwardly. He hasn't seen all my memories of the last 2 years. Great. He doesn't know my fighting style or strengths anymore. You're in for one hell of a time now, fuzzbutt, thought Naruto. "Well, we won't know until we try now, will we?" said Naruto, smirking as he jumped back a few feet and got into his taijutsu stance. "I guess we won't. Come at me whenever you're ready, fleshbag," said Kyuubi smugly while jumping back and getting into a pouncing position. "Sure thing, Fuzzy," was Naruto's response, knowing the demon always hated it when he was called that. Kyuubi growled menacingly at the "Fuzzy" comment. Naruto then shot off toward the fox with a blinding speed the demon wasn't expecting or ready for. Naruto punched the red fox dead center on the nose, knocking the Kyuubi off his feet to go skidding across the battlefield. When the fox managed to shake off his dizziness, he looked back at Naruto to see him standing in the spot he had once occupied. Looking at his cursed container, the demon smugly said, "So you've gained a small amount of brute strength, I see, but it's gonna take more than that for you to win this." Kyuubi then rushed back at Naruto at full speed. Just as he reached the blonde, he slammed his claw down on Naruto. Feeling nothing under the massive paw, he raised the appendage and looked down to find nothing. He then felt a tug on one of his tails. After dodging the fox's attack, Naruto moved behind his prisoner and grabbed the closest tail. Gripping it tightly, the Saiyan began swinging the fox around, building up momentum. Once the trees of the surrounded forest were nothing more than green and brown blurs, he released his hold, sending him flying through several trees in the forest. Naruto stood in his ready position watching the forest, knowing it was far from over. Jumping from the forest, the Kyuubi's was grin no lower on his face. He looked at Naruto with a look of complete anger and sent on enough killing intent to kill a lesser man. "No more playing around, now you die." He then rushed Naruto and started clawing and swinging his tails in an attempt to strike his foe. Kyuubi continued his assault for several minutes, but no matter how much he tried, he couldn't hit Naruto. How did he get so strong in such a short time? No matter. I will still destroy him. Naruto then got under the Kyuubi's guard and delivered a punishing roundhouse kick to the side of the head, making him staggering a little, but the demon remained on his feet. The fox then went back on the attack with more fervor this time, but he still couldn't touch Naruto. Breaking back into his guard, Naruto landed an axe kick on the fox's cranium, smashing Kyuubi's muzzle into the ground, fracturing both in the process. Quickly recovering, the Kyuubi went back to attacking Naruto, wanting nothing more than to rip him to pieces. After several more minutes, Kyuubi managed to corner him with his tails. He went in for the kill, but just as he was about to get him, Naruto vanished. The beast then looked around desperately, trying to find him. Where the hell did he go? I almost had him. Fuck. Pissed. Down here, said a whisper from under his head into the front of him. Looking down, Kyuubi was met with an uppercut to his muzzle, lifting him off the ground and onto his back. Damn you, I will kill you, yelled Kyuubi, getting up and into a pouncing stance again. His tails curled in front of his face and chakra began to build in front of his mouth in preparation to launch the Biju ball. Condensing the ball, he swallowed the chakra only for his body to puff up slightly, almost like a balloon. Naruto simply stood in place watching, already knowing what was happening. B did train him in the creation of the Biju ball after all. The smirk returned to his face once again. Naruto called out, "Bring it, you overgrown throw rug. You won't survive this. Now die." The fox screamed before releasing the pent-up energy back out into a blast, few if any would normally survive. The energy completely obliterating the clearing and some of the surrounding forest. Seeing the smoking spot where Naruto had once stood, the Kyuubi smirked. "I have won. I will finally have my freedom to do." "Oh really?" The smoke then cleared enough to see a figure standing within. When it completely cleared, standing in the same spot he had been in was Naruto, just as he was before. His clothes not even a little singed, smirk still on his face. How? That isn't possible," stuttered the shocked Kyuubi, retreating a little in fear. Naruto then rushed the unprepared Kitsune and slid into a crouching position under his muzzle, giving him another uppercut, sending him to air again. This time though, Naruto jumped with him and slashed him across the belly with Kurihime, sending him cascading back to the ground. Struggling to get back to his feet, even as the belly wound closed, he looks at Naruto. How did you get this strong?" "No human is this strong?" asked the Kyuubi. "Training," was all Naruto said, looking just as he had before. "You think you've won, huh? Well, you haven't. I still have my trump card," said Kyuubi as the smug look returned to his face. The forest and clearing faded away, only to be replaced by a dark, dirty apartment. Naruto looked around and instantly recognized it. It was his old apartment. Did I really live here? What the hell was I thinking, letting the old man put me here? He thought, looking around. Then he heard crying and what sounded like a group of people. Walking into the next room where the sounds were coming from, he instantly knew what was going on. He scowled as he watched. He saw 4 people huddle over a blonde-haired child, beating him with bats and pipes. The child just lay there curled in a ball, crying, begging them to stop hurting him. The abused boy cried out that he didn't do anything wrong. "I see you recognize the scene. It's a memory of one of the many beatings you endured as a child," rang out Kyuubi's voice. "Doesn't it make you angry? The village you worked so hard for, trying to gain their acknowledgement. Even after all you did for them, they just threw you out like a broken tool and snatched your purpose for living away. Now you have nothing to live for. Why do you keep trying? You have no purpose, no friends, and no family. You're like a stray, unloved and discarded." The Kyuubi smirked, seeing Naruto drop his head, letting his bangs cover his eyes. The smirk left as quickly as it came when he saw Naruto lift his head with a smirk on his face as he began to speak. "You know what I've learned from my 2 years as a bounty hunter, breath." "What was that?" said the smug Demon King, thinking that Naruto was going to try lashing out at him in anger. "I hate being used," said Naruto, bringing his right hand out in front of himself and fired a ki wave at the 4 people kicking his younger self. Kyuubi was totally in shock seeing Naruto attack the villagers. He didn't notice the scene changing from the apartment back to the original battlefield. Before Naruto returned to the battlefield, he heard a voice whisper, "Use your Kai to start the purification and reunion of the beasts." The voice had an otherworldly quality to it, almost like Naruto had heard it before. Without conscious thought, Naruto then turned toward the still injured Kyuubi and fired a Kai blast at him. The beam was red at its core with black surrounding it. The Kyuubi screamed in agony, feeling not only the pain but something totally different than he had ever felt before. While the Kyuubi was disintegrating, Naruto spoke to him one last time. Kyuubi, before you leave this existence, know this. I, Naruto Uzumaki, am a tool no more, and my purpose for living is simply to enjoy life, he said as the fox faded. Good riddance, furball. Naruto then dropped to his knees in pain as he was engulfed in blue and red energy, then everything went black. Guru's lookout. Naruto opened his eyes to see a bluish-white ceiling. He sat up and Bulma rushed toward him. Groaning, Naruto looked at her to see she looked a bit shaken. What's wrong, Bulma Obachan? Naruto asked, worried. It's Guru, she stopped. Naruto then looked at Guru to see him sitting in his chair completely lifeless. Naruto closed his eyes and allowed a single tear to fall in honor of someone who had helped him in ways that Naruto himself did not know just yet. Naruto then looked back to Bulma. How long have I been out? He asked. About an hour, she answered. What's happened since then? He questioned. I don't know, but I think someone used the Dragon Balls, she replied. Hopefully it wasn't Frieza. Let me find out where everyone is, he said as he reached out with his senses to locate all the powers on the planet. Wow, they're fighting Frieza. I sense Gohan, Krillin, Goku, and someone else there. Where's Vegeta? I hope he didn't run away or worse. Crap, I have to get over there, but what about Bulma? I can't leave her here. Duh, shadow clones. He then looks at Bulma as he rose to his feet. Obachan, I'm gonna have a shadow clone take you to Goku's spaceship. It's too dangerous to have you go with me to fight Frieza, he said. She nodded. Okay, but what's a shadow clone? Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto calls out after making the familiar cross sign. In a poof of smoke another Naruto appears. Looking at the clone, Naruto was able to see the changes to his body. His canine teeth were longer now, almost like they were when he would use the Kyuubi's chakra shroud, and his tail was now red with a black tip. His muscles were larger but not overly so. His whisker birthmarks were a little more defined now, but not by much. Not what I was expecting to happen, but at least I don't have a foxtail or claws. I hated those things. They always cut my hands if I made a fist too tight. He then looked at Bulma. He's gonna fly you to the ship. In a slight state of shock, Bulma asked, how did you do that? Naruto sighed. The clone will answer all you questions on the way. Right now I have no time to. Bye now, he yelled as he took off from Guru's lookout. He looked back one last time. Rest in peace, Guru. Don't worry, old man, we'll avenge your people and make sure Frieza can't harm anyone else ever again. Deciding he needed to get to the battlefield faster, Naruto powers up his newfound abilities and blasts toward where the rest were fighting. Hang in there, guys, I'm on my way. Battlefield on Namek. Things really weren't looking good to Krillin and Gohan as they watched Piccolo try to protect Goku from Frieza. In their eyes, Frieza was really starting to seem invincible. He seemed to take everything they threw at him and come back stronger. First, Vegeta managed to fight him to a stalemate, then he transformed into a monstrous form, saying that his power level was over 1 million. He then commenced to taking them out one by one. First was Krillin, then Vegeta, and after an impressive assault on his part he took out Gohan. After Dent healed Krillin and Gohan, both with near-fatal wounds, Piccolo showed up telling them he would fight Frieza alone. Piccolo had fought him to a stalemate, just as Vegeta had before. As things seemed bright, it was revealed that Frieza had another transformation. Upon transforming, Frieza immediately started to assault Piccolo with a brutally barrage of fingertip ki beams. In another fit of anger, Gohan jumped in to save Piccolo by firing of a huge ki beam at Frieza. After just barely deflecting the attack, Frieza decided he was tired of playing with them and transformed into his fourth and final form. Once his transformation was complete, he quickly killed Dend. He had learned during his last transformation that it was Dend who had been healing the wounded. He then attempted to kill Gohan before he could get any stronger, but before the blast connected, a powered-up Vegeta knocked Gohan out of the beam's path. Vegeta, who had just got a boost of power thanks to the combined efforts of Krillin and the recently departed Dend. Vegeta then challenged Frieza, arrogantly thinking he was now a Super Saiyan and could defeat the white and purple monster. After several minutes of Vegeta assaulting Frieza, but not being able to lay a finger on him, Frieza commenced to hand Vegeta his ass. After dropping Vegeta with a flurry of attacks, Frieza proceeded to lift him into the air by the neck using his tail. The alien then started to pound Vegeta's spine from behind like the Saiyan Prince was a prison bitch. Just as Frieza was about to finish Vegeta off, Goku showed up completely rejuvenated thanks to the healing tank from Frieza's ship. Just as things looked up again with Vegeta giving Goku a motivational speech, Frieza silenced him by a fingertip beam to heart. While it was a fatal wound and Vegeta did die, it still took him a while to do so. With his last ounce of strength, Vegeta begged Goku to put aside his soft heart and do what was necessary to not only stop the tyrant but to avenge the lives of all the Saiyans that were killed at the monster's hands. After taking a couple of minutes to bury Vegeta, Goku started fighting Frieza alone. After several minutes they looked to be even, but never letting a good thing last too long. Frieza revealed that he wasn't even using half his strength. Goku then was put on the defensive, getting his ass handed to him. Goku decided to go with his desperation attack, the Spirit Bomb. Frieza, wanting to end the fight, wouldn't let him power it up. Learning of Goku's plan, Piccolo hopped into the fight hoping to give Goku the time he needed to finish the Spirit Bomb. And here they were now, watching Piccolo about to be killed by Frieza. "Hey, after I'm done with the last little Namek, I'm gonna take care of you. Now, die forever crossing me, Frieza, ruler of the universe," said Frieza as he sent a large ki blast at Piccolo. "Crap, I can't move. I'm sorry Goku, but this is all I can do," thought Piccolo, closing his eyes and awaiting death for the second time. "Damn it, I can't do anything or I'll drop the Spirit Bomb and waste Piccolo's sacrifice," thought Goku, angry at himself for not being able to help his friend. Just as the blast was about to hit Piccolo, another ki blast intercepted Frieza's, knocking it off course and causing it to explore several miles away from the battlefield. Immediately everyone looked in the direction the intercepting ki blast came from. Everyone was both in shock and surprised, but no one was more surprised than Piccolo and Frieza. Floating off to the side was Naruto. He gave a sigh of relief, glad he made it in time to save his new friends. Naruto then put himself between Frieza and Piccolo. Looking at Goku, he said, "Sorry, I'm late cuz I had to awaken some sleeping powers so I would be of some help to you guys." Naruto then looked around. "So, what happened to Vegeta?" he asked, not locating or feeling him. Nobody said anything until Frieza spoke smugly. "The great Prince Vegeta died like the monkey his was." Thinking it would piss Naruto off, and it did, he just didn't show it. "I see," was all he said as he got into his taijutsu stance. "It looks like you need some time to prepare, Goku. I'll see what I can do." He smirked as he looked at Frieza, then powered up, kicking up a fierce wind and shaking the ground around everyone. "Naruto's become a lot stronger than he was before. Hopefully he can hold off Frieza until I finish the Spirit Bomb," thought Goku. Who is this guy? He seemed to be a Saiyan, but he's not like Vegeta or the others, and he's strong, even stronger than Goku, thought Piccolo as he moved to Goku's side. So another Saiyan monkey comes to the rescue. "I don't know how many of you apes escaped the destruction of planet Vegeta, but it doesn't matter, you're all gonna die by my hand," said Frieza, who wasted no time rushing Naruto and throwing a punch at his upper torso. Naruto surprised Frieza by parrying his attack with ease. Naruto spoke, "Are you sure? Those weaklings at your base were thinking they were invincible too before both them and that base was eradicated." Naruto smirked, giving Frieza an "I know something you don't" expression. "What have you done?" Frieza asked angrily while continuing his assault, but Naruto kept evading his attacks with ease. "Oh, not much, just played a few pranks, impersonated a couple of your goons, and infiltrated my way to planet Namek under the guise of one of the Ginyu Force," Naruto answered as if it was the most obvious thing in the world, still smirking. Knowing what he was doing, Naruto said under his breath, but just enough for Frieza to hear. "Stole your diary, and blew up the base on my way here." Raising his voice so the rest could hear, "No big thing really. It was a lot of fun." "You did what?" Frieza screamed as he stopped his assault, trying to comprehend what the Saiyan had said to him. Piccolo had heard the whole thing. He didn't know whether to laugh or pray for the young Saiyan who had just enraged the feminine tyrant. Lowering his voice once again, Naruto continued, "Oh, and I did find that weird toy closet in your room when I found your diary. I have a question though. Were those green assless chaps for you or Zarbin? I'm going to kill you." Frieza screamed out again, then rushed Naruto in blind fury. After the last comment, Piccolo couldn't hold it in anymore. He fell to the ground with uncontrolled laughter, holding his sides. Goku, who couldn't hear the conversation and had never heard Piccolo laugh this much or this hard, looked down at Piccolo worried. "Piccolo, what's wrong?" asked Goku. "He's either a fucking genius or has one hell of a death wish," was all Piccolo said, still holding his sides, trying to overcome the hilarity of the situation. Meanwhile, Naruto had actually taken out Frieza's diary and began to read parts of it while evading Frieza's sloppy attacks. "Dear Diary, the new recruit with the blue hair is so cute. I've been so excited that I've had to sit in by hover chair the whole week so no one would notice," read Naruto laughing all the while. "Give it back, damn you," yelled Frieza. "When I get my hands on you, you'll what? Rape me," said Naruto, faking being horrified. Dear Diary, Vegeta looked so why after he returning from his mission covered in injuries. "One of these days, I gonna lock him up in my private chambers and, shut up. Shut up, damn it." This actually continued until Frieza got fed up and decided he was going to destroy them all at once. "You're gonna regret what you've done. All of you," Frieza yelled as he began to build up the energy for an attack over his head. "Yes, I've finished the spirit bomb and I don't have any more time to waste," thought Goku as he dropped his raised arms, sending the spirit bomb downward. Building the attack, Frieza didn't even see the spirit bomb dropping down toward him until it began to absorb his attack, growing in size from the addition of energy. Turning around, he finally noticed the blue-white orb, but it was too late for him to avoid it. Seeing the attack connect and begin to push Frieza downward, everyone hit the dirt. Soon the attack pushed Frieza into the planet and exploded. Once the attack was over, they regrouped and looked at the damage. In the center of the ocean was a humongous crater. "Well, that sure packed a punch," said Naruto sarcastically, looking at the crater. Piccolo, who had finally regained his senses, turned to Naruto. "What was the deal with the diary and trying to get him mad?" he asked. "Diary?" asked Gohan, Goku, and Krillin simultaneously. After introducing himself to Piccolo, he told the other three what he had done to Frieza. After they finally stopped laughing, Piccolo asked his question once again. "What was the point of that anyway? Well, even though I hadn't fought him yet, I could tell he was still a lot stronger than me. So I used the diary to throw off his concentration and stall for time while Goku was able to finish his spirit bomb," stated Naruto like it was a perfectly valid tactic. At this point they all nodded their heads with an "oh" expression on the faces, seeing the genius behind the idea. Just as they were about to continue, they felt it. Turning around to the crater, they saw Frieza battered and bruised, standing on the edge of the crater, firing the same attack that killed Vegeta and denned at Naruto. "Die!" yelled Frieza. "Look out!" yelled Piccolo, pushing Naruto out of the way and taking to the attack in his stead. Before anyone can get to Piccolo, Krillin was lifted high off the ground by a mysterious force and crushed until he exploded. "Why won't this ass fucker just die? God damn it. He won't get away with this. He's already terrorized too much of universe. I have had enough," Naruto yelled mentally as his rage started to swell. Goku was having similar thoughts. The two Saiyans' rage continued to grow, doubling and tripling, until both of them screamed out, causing an explosion of golden energy to burst from their bodies, shocking Frieza and Gohan. Goku spoke without looking at him. "Gohan, Piccolo is still alive. Get him and Bulma and leave the planet on my spaceship." Shaking from the tone in his father's voice. "But Dad, what about you and Naruto? I can't leave you both here," replied Gohan. "Don't worry about us, we'll be fine, but if you stay here you'll just be a liability," said Naruto, still staring at the little fairy of an alien. Before Gohan could continue his protests, his father shouts, "Now, Gohan!" Convinced, Gohan took off, carrying Piccolo over his shoulder. What are you?" stuttered Frieza, backing up in shock. "Your greatest fear," said Goku. Staring straight into the unbreakable genjutsu of Lee and guys while they're wearing speedos and giving each other their youthful man hug, thought Naruto with a shiver, but still a little confused as to what they're talking about. Super Saiyan. "No, that's only a legend," stuttered Frieza. So that's what this form is called, Naruto concluded after finally being able to change into his now named Super Saiyan form again. Goku then turned to Naruto. "You don't mind if I fight him alone, do you?" he asked. Pouting a little, Naruto crossed his arms over his chest and said, "But I wanted to fight him. Play ya paper, rock, scissors for it." Chuckling, Goku agreed while Frieza's sweat dropped. He was still frozen in fear at the power coming off the Saiyan duo but figured he was still strong enough to win. While this was going through the little tyrant's mind, the two blondes were finishing their game. Goku won and Naruto said, "Well, you win cuz, kick his ass and take your time. I want to watch as you take this cocksucker apart." With that said, Goku shot off. Well, this ass whooping is gonna be spectacular. Following behind hoping to get a good seat. Naruto and Goku were sitting in a rocky clearing surrounded by pink aliens with round wrinkly heads, white eyelids, and pointed ears. They were all dressed in baggy red cargo pants, loose long-sleeve white shirts, and weird body armor that covered the left shoulder, upper torso, and lower waist. All were listening intently to the story that our blonde hero was telling everyone. "So then I farted in his face," said Naruto. Laughter broke out around him. Naruto and Goku had survived the fight with Frieza and his planet-destroying attack thanks to some quick thinking from Naruto. While Goku and Frieza were fighting, Naruto had sent some clones to check for not only survivors but also for the Ginyu Force space pods. No survivors were found, but Naruto did locate and sealed all the pods for safekeeping. The whole time this was going on, Naruto sat watching as Goku manhandled Frieza, even after he had gone into his 100% form. Then after a mental conversation with King Kai, who Naruto learned had a great sense of humor, if his comments on Frieza's diary meant anything, he managed to use the Earth Dragon Balls to wish back all those killed by Frieza and his men, including Guru. With that done, Dende used the last wish of the Namekian Dragon Balls to teleport everyone but Goku, Frieza, and Naruto to Earth. Goku wanted to finish the fight. Naruto wanted to watch the closet homo get the shit beat out of him, and Frieza really didn't have much say in the matter. Frieza, who had watched the whole thing, was furious and began throwing a buzzsaw-like energy attack at Goku, and for good measure he decided to blindside Naruto with a ki wave that shredded his jacket but did nothing else but piss the man off. Naruto then got Frieza back with a powered-up punch that rocked the alien for a loop. In the end, Frieza cut himself in half with his own attack. Naruto laughed hysterically at the girly alien's stupidity, but all laughter stopped when he saw Goku give Frieza some energy that would allow the halved alien to survive. Goku turned to leave with Naruto coming to his location quickly. Naruto then warned him about letting someone like Frieza live. Goku replied by saying he might change. Naruto did not believe Frieza would change. He already knew what people like Frieza usually do when given mercy. He remembered all the times Sasuke was offered that same type of mercy and threw it back into his face. Just as he guessed he would, Frieza attacked both of them when their back was turned with a ki beam. Naruto, who was still on guard waiting for the other shoe to drop, turned around and sent a beam of his own into the powerful blast, causing both to slam directly into the once mighty tyrant, putting an end to the extraterrestrial drag queen's existence. Goku led Naruto to Frieza's ship in a desperate attempt to get them off the doomed planet. Naruto calmed the Super Saiyan down when he produced the scroll containing the stored pods. Once unsealed, Naruto programmed Goku's pod to slave to his. They both jumped in and blasted off. Naruto had pulled up a random planet from the database and punched it, sending them to their current location. Upon their landing, they were greeted by the native population. The Yardrats were nice people and had great appetites. Despite being tall, the Yardrats didn't have the stamina to travel long distances, so they developed a technique to remedy the problem called instant transmission. Goku and Naruto both soaked the technique up like a sponge. Both decided to stay for some extra training. 130 days after the Z warriors on Earth had used the finial wish from the Namekian Dragon Balls, Goku felt a tug. Goku explained to the shadowy shape of the dragon that he and Naruto were going to stay and return at a later time. They had actually spent several months training themselves into the ground. They both could go Super Saiyan with very little trouble now. Naruto had managed to learn the solar flare from Goku and many other techniques using his ki as an invisible force. He had also remade Frieza Buzzsaw attack, renaming it Sheikah. Death Swirl. Naruto made some adjustments to the attack that allowed it to expand the same way his Rasen Shuriken did in case he missed the initial target. After Naruto's story, the two Saiyans decided to go train some more. Naruto formed 2,000 shadow clones for the training he wanted them to go through. Splitting them into groups. 200 for each of the 5 elements, 100 to spar with Goku, 200 to polish and perfect all his energy techniques to the point he didn't need hand seals for ninjutsu or so long to power up his attacks. 200 to brush up on his sealing skills, 100 each on his 3 different energy sources, ki, chakra, and kai. He used the next 100 for taijutsu practice and the last 100 for meditation. The real Naruto then began thinking of different experiments and uses for all his attacks and different energies. After training was complete, Goku floated up to a floating, meditating Naruto. Currently Goku was dressed in the Yardrat's clothes, while Naruto had his same outfit on, just without the jacket. It had been damaged so much on Namek by Frieza's surprise attack that it still needed time to repair itself. So now he was just wearing a form-fitting black tank top over a mesh t-shirt and his sword strapped to his back. Goku asked, "So, what are your plans? I know you mentioned us going to Elam to train some more and so you could meet up with some of your old friends, but you never really finalized those plans." Opening his eyes, Naruto replied, "Yeah, I think it would benefit both of us actually. I've been a little worried about Cooler showing up and claiming my home world ever since I left for Namek. Besides, if I'm going to help you guys with chakra training, I'm going to need some extra help to do it." Nodding, both head to their quarters to start packing. Naruto unseals their space pods and they headed out. Naruto had calculated it would take them about 2 weeks to get from Yardrat to Elam. Meanwhile in Konoha, Tsunade was not having a good day. The council had been screaming for her to do something to find Naruto and get the village back to a more stable footing with the rest of the nations. Hell, she hadn't had a good day in almost 3 years. Ever since they had banished Naruto, the civilian council had been making ridiculous demands like the Uchiha being made a Jonin and the 7th Hokage. Tsunade had put a stop to that when the arrogant Uchiha had requested the CRA. That had been one of the highest points she had had during this whole time. The only one that topped it was when Naruto's banishment was receded and she had to forcefully stop Hinata from going out to look for their favorite blonde. Kakashi was already chosen by the council for the 6th, because she refused to pick anyone except Naruto and threatened to destroy the village if they chose Sasuke. Sasuke had found a loophole around the CRA after the first 3 months of his confined protection. He had read all the laws concerning the CRA and found that it could be voided if he was not able to produce an heir within the first year, and he couldn't. No one had noticed that he had placed an old family seal on himself that prevented reproduction. He would be permitted to reapply at a later time but was still confined to the village walls. That's when the council started up the promotion screaming again. Tsunade had relented and allowed the great Uchiha to test for Jonin. She approved of his promotion to Chunin to shut everyone up but not to Jonin. Tsunade argued that without his Sharingan he would just barely make Chunin, nowhere near Jonin, and had been proven correct too. During the Jonin tests all ninja must go through a complete physical and stringent testing standards. He had failed the physical portion but had passed the elemental and jutsu stages. He barely squeaked by on the weapons portion and utterly failed the strategy tests, having thought it was a waste of time. He figured that any enemy would run in fear because of the name Uchiha. Yeah, that didn't work so well when the proctors laughed in his face and sent him through Guy's obstacle course. I'm basing a lot of the Jonin tests off of the story, Growing Affection. If you haven't read that story then I suggest you look it up and read it. Very good read. To top everything off, she still couldn't locate her surrogate grandson at all. She had sent out several teams to follow up on the numerous rumors surrounding him but no one could find him anywhere. It was like he dropped off the face of the earth. She even begged her summons to contact the Toad clan for help. The Toads couldn't find him either, but they knew he was still alive because the Toad contract was still valid. At the time all this was going on, Naruto had still been sealed off from his chakra, so they couldn't even summon him either. The rest of the blonde Gaki's friends were not at all happy that Naruto was banished. Hinata along with Anko had tried to go after Naruto shortly after the announcement was made, but were stopped before leaving the village. Both had been put on a stringent probation and confined to the village for several months. The Hyuga Council then tried to force her into an arranged marriage with one of her distant relatives. Hinata was so angry about all of this shit that she snapped on them. She demanded that she face her suitor. Well, let's just say that didn't go so well for the poor bastard. She proceeded to hand him his ass in the most painful way she could come up with. After the poor guy was beaten to within an inch of his life and left without the ability to father children, she turned her sights on the honorable elders. The screams of those old fools could be heard all over Konoha that day. None bothered to stop her, and her father actually praised the young woman for finally stepping up and getting a backbone. Most of the Rookie 9 had kept an ear out for anything concerning Naruto, but none ever found him. There was also the rumor that her ex-apprentice was even happy that he couldn't be found. Tsunade had stopped training Sakura when the girl started to neglect training and spent all her time fawning over the Uchiha again. Once she had dropped Sakura, she actually chose to train Ten-Ten and Hinata. Ten-Ten she had trained in taijutsu and chakra control. Due to Hinata's punishment for attempting to leave, she had a lot of free time. Tsunade had taken the heiress and started teaching her medicine and her strength techniques. Both worked extremely hard, but Hinata learned even faster than Sakura had. Tsunade figured that she was preparing to go after Naruto again, but had talked the girl out of it even after Naruto's banishment was lifted. Right now Tsunade was sitting in her office sipping sake and remembering all the good times she had with the young man that had healed her heart, only for those bastards to rip it away again. After his banishment, she had started her plans to destroy the village that her grandfather had made. She slowly embezzled funds to pay off all of her debts and allowed motions to pass through that she normally would not even consider. Among these were new construction and business ventures the greedy council had put forth to line their own pockets, but did little to help the village as a whole. She also wouldn't put forth very much effort to get those lost alliances that were lost back. Gaara had refused to step foot in the Leaf ever again due to what they had done to his friend. Spring cut off technology supplies. Wave placed a shipping embargo on the village and taxed the hell out of anything that went to them. Many other nations had also tried to locate Naruto, none had succeeded either. The nations had been in an uproar when everything had come out. Every nation that had been touched by Naruto had in some way or another cut off ties with Konoha. To prevent another war, the council had reascended the banishment after only 6 months, but the damage had been done. No one wanted to do business with them anymore, and it was showing. It took almost 3 years, but the village had fallen into a deep economic depression that Tsunade did nothing to get them out of. She was retiring very soon and decided they can get themselves out of the mess. All of a sudden 2 explosions erupted in the village. One destroyed the Uchiha district, while the other hit the wall, causing a gaping hole to form. Tsunade went into Hokage mode, Shizune. Space, King Cold's ship. King Cold had searched for his son Frieza after the explosion of Namek. He had found him and with the help of the best scientists in the galaxy had found a way to save and improve him. Standing next to the large, horned father of monsters was his other son, Cooler. They had met up after finding out about Frieza's humiliation and rescue. Cooler didn't care about Frieza or if he died, but he did care about the dishonor that had fallen on his family because of it. That little fag was beaten by 2 Saiyans. This is not acceptable. He even allowed one to find and read his diary. All his perversions were there and might be exposed, further humiliating our family. I will deal with the diary thief, and then the one that bested my brother. He thought. Frieza had awakened and informed his father of where Goku was from, but did not know where the other, Naruto, had been from, but knew he had been on Frieza's base. Everyone figured that something might have been salvaged to show his former location. Little did they know that Cooler had hidden spy programs in Frieza's computer network that loaded all his plans to his older brother. Cooler then delved into the records that he found. He pieced together the timeline of events, laughing at the reports of an unknown prankster hidden on the base. Finally coming to the point when everything started, the arrival of Lieutenant Giwi. Searching further, he found the location that this person had come from, Elam. Elam, wastelands on an unknown continent. The 2 Saiyans had finally landed, but Naruto's calculations had been slightly off, causing them to overshoot their target of the elemental nations and landing on a continent that was unknown. Everything was barren. The only life that could be found were grotesque animals that looked like demons. The whole place seemed to have a demonic taint to it, causing both to shiver slightly. Well, that was a long trip. This place gives me the creeps. Let's get out of here, stated Naruto after he and Goku looked around their surrounding while two clones sealed their pods. Flying into the air to get to their originally planned location, they felt a strong presence. Goku asked, "What is this power? It almost feels like Frieza, only stronger." Naruto responded, "I don't know, but whatever it is, I get to fight this one." Naruto chuckled evilly, causing Goku to smile at his friend. They touched down at the coastline of Fire Country to get their bearings when Fukasaku popped up off to the side. "What are you doing here, Pa?" asked Naruto. "Naruto-chan, Konoha is under attack," said the little toad. So, I was banished. What does it have to do with me? Besides, we are on our way to that huge power source that we have been sensing for the last few minutes," he asked. "They are being attacked by an alien named Cooler, and I don't think he'll stop at just Konoha," said Fukasaku. "Crap, so he attacked himself, huh? That must be who we're sensing. I was hoping he wouldn't come here, but I guess I'm going to have to bail those assholes out again," said Naruto, trying to think of what to do. "Who's Cooler?" asked Goku, finally making himself known. "Frieza's older brother," answered Naruto. "Then we have to go stop him," said Goku immediately. "I guess you're right. Come on, let's go," he agreed. "Pa, jump on my shoulder. It will only take us a second to get to the village." Fukasaku jumped on the younger Saiyan's shoulder and they disappeared with the blurring of Naruto and Goku using their instant transmission technique. Konoha. Tsunade was sitting in the middle of the village, hidden in a collapsing store, alongside the Konoha 11 feet and their senseis. They had been attacked a few minutes earlier by a weird purple and white creature with a tail and his 3 henchmen. This creature kept asking where Naruto was, confusing everyone. Tsunade had thought fast and gotten the civilians and most of the population out of harm's way by explaining that Naruto was not here and they did not know where he was. Cooler had sensed the arrival of the 2 Saiyans but decided to stay here and have some fun before destroying those 2 apes. He ordered his goons to attack. This caused the ninja to counter, but the real problem was they seemed unaffected by anything that was thrown at them. These monsters were using an unknown energy source that wasn't chakra. So right now the defenders were hiding and trying to think of a plan to stop them. "I could try Tsukuyomi again. No one can stand up to the might of my Sharingan," said Sasuke, knowing that it would be him that would defeat this new foe, even after everything he had thrown at them had failed miserably. "Ah, ego. Thy name is Sasuke Uchiha. You tried that already, idiot. Not only did it not work, but when you had him in Tsukuyomi none of your torture methods worked at all," spat Tsunade, annoyed with the almighty Uchiha's arrogant belief that his Sharingan was unstoppable. Before anyone could say another word, the roof was lifted away and the front wall of the store was knocked down. The 3 henchmen came into view. "Looks like we found some rats, Lord Cooler," said Salza. "Normally, I would say exterminate them, but I want to do it myself. Besides, I think the ones that I want are on their way here now," said Cooler with a sneer on his face. Cooler had been pissed ever since he found out about Frieza, but had loved what this Naruto had done on the base. Not that he ever liked his brother to begin with, but getting beat by a Saiyan put huge blemish on their family's reputation. One he would not stand for. Besides, he wanted to prevent anyone from finding out about Frieza's perverse actions. He didn't want the book to fall into the wrong hands after all. He wanted it to hold over Frieza's head as blackmail material. So he was taking his frustration on this planet's inhabitants while looking for the Saiyan that stole his brother's diary. Floating about 20 feet above the assembled ninja, Cooler powered up a large, ki blast that would destroy the whole village and even most of the forest and wildlife nearby. Then he threw it at Tsunade and the others, who were still rooted to their spots, scared out of their minds and about to piss their pants. Just as the blast closed in on the group, it was suddenly stopped, shocking Cooler. Tsunade and others had closed their eyes and were awaiting the inevitable, so they didn't see the blonde-haired young man looking to be about 19 or 20 years old with a long braid going to his lower back and a sword strapped horizontally from right shoulder to left hip stop the blast with one hand. They also didn't see the toad hopping off his shoulder to stand next to him. They opened their eyes to a voice none had ever heard before. "So you're Frieza's brother Cooler, huh? What are you doing here and why are you attacking this peaceful planet?" They were shocked. Standing before them was a boy who looked no older than the rookie 11, holding off an attack that they knew they weren't able to defend against, as if it was child's play. Beside him was another man with weird spiky hair and cloths that looked so outlandish. If it wasn't for the deadly ball still suspended over their heads, they would have face-faulted at seeing the outfit. Tsunade noticed Fukasaku. "Fukasaku, what are you doing here and who are they?" said Tsunade, bringing everyone attention to the little toad to the right of the young man holding the glowing sphere. Fukasaku looked back at Tsunade. "Oh, Tsunade-chan. We heard from the great toad sage that the planet was being attacked by a creature of great evil. So he sent me to retrieve Nar. Don't tell you've forgotten me, Bon. It's only been about 3 years. Naruto interrupted as he looked back at her with his bright foxy smile. Tsunade's eyes widened in recognition. Naruto. This got everyone's attention. The boy that had been banished and disappeared almost 3 years ago was standing before them looking stronger and wiser, in all the girls' opinion, than anything they had ever seen, including Sakura's, holding off an attack like it was nothing from an enemy that even their Hokage couldn't beat. Before anyone could say anything else, Naruto spoke up as he looked back in front of him. "Well, as much as I'd love to get caught up, I only came here to kill that guy up there." Naruto then punted the blast back at Cooler, further shocking everyone except Goku. Now they were all having their own thoughts on Naruto. "Show off," Goku chuckling. "You've really surpassed all the other Hokages, Naruto, and because of the council we've lost such a precious gem." Tsunade with tears in her eyes and disdain for her village in her heart. "He looks even more troublesome than before, but it's good to have you back, Shikamaru. He caught that attack with no trouble and amazing. Choji. Naruto looks so cool, I wonder if he has a girlfriend?" Ino getting really wet and excited. "My bugs are telling me he isn't using chakra, but how can that be?" Shino. "He's really come far from the dead last of the academy, Kiba. Even after having your dream taken away, your resolve is as strong as ever. Naruto-kun, you are absolutely amazing. I will not let you go again." Hinata with love and admiration along with a lot of pent-up UAL tension. "Is that really the kid that would run around in an orange jumpsuit screaming about ramen? He's really changed." Kurenai feeling a little excited herself. "Naruto, you are always defying fate. Even after you were banished you became stronger. You are truly the most unpredictable person ever." Neji with pride in his friend. "That sword looks so cool, and his braid is so wide. I love a man with long hair." Tenten drooled, getting just as wet as Ino. "Naruto's flames of youth are burning so brightly, if I can't surpass them all," Lee ranted to himself. "How is he stopping that attack? Naruto is so youthful. Guy, is that really Naruto? He looks so cool, even cooler than Sasuke, but how could he change so much?" Sakura in complete shock both from what she was seeing and the tingling she was feeling. "I'm glad to see that you've changed even more than you did before you left. I'm so sorry, Naruto. I failed you when you needed me the most." Kakashi with thoughts of regret and shame but more pride that his sensei's son could be this strong. "How is the gap between us still this big? I'm an Uchiha, I should be the strongest. I will force the Dobi to give me his secrets." Sasuke thinking it would be easy. Cooler after dodging his returned attack, looked at the person who returned it. "Who are you?" Cooler asked, a bit interested that someone on this planet could repel an attack of that level, but then he saw his tail. "A Saiyan?" he asked more to himself. Then noticed Goku standing beside this unknown Saiyan. "Ah, you two must be the ones that beat Frieza. Well, aren't I lucky? I can destroy both of you now and Frieza's trip to Earth will have been for nothing." Goku was shocked and asked what he meant. Cooler explained that Frieza had left for Earth to destroy it and the Saiyan named Goku. "I'm Goku." Chuckling, he explained that it would take his brother several weeks to get to his destination, but that neither would be leaving this planet alive, so it didn't matter. Naruto placed his hand on Goku's shoulder and whispered to him as he handed him the scroll with the pods in it. "Goku, take the scroll and go back to Earth. I'll handle Cooler. If the charts are right, it shouldn't take very long to get there." "Go. Where do you think you're going, Saiyan?" Cooler said just as Goku took the scroll and got ready to find a clearing to unseal the pod that would take him home. "What's a Saiyan?" Tsunade and company thought. "He's going back to Earth to finish what he should have on Namek." "Your fight is with me now," Naruto exclaimed to give Goku time to finish his launch as he sped out of the atmosphere. "Good luck, Naruto," thought Goku as he continued to head for Earth. Cooler didn't even bother with the fleeing Saiyan, figuring that he could catch up and destroy his pod before it reached Earth. His main concern was getting back that diary and crushing this pathetic monkey under his heel. Before Naruto could continue, he was rushed from the side by Door, Green Goon, and punched in the face. Door smirked seeing his hand connect, but the smirk soon turned to shock along with everyone else watching when Naruto didn't budge. His head wasn't even tilted. What the hell was that? Rang out aboard Naruto. Naruto's tail eased up his side and wrapped around Door's arm that was still planted against Naruto's face. Then it began to crush his wrist mercilessly. Door began screaming in pain and tugging as hard as he could to get his arm free. After about a minute, Door had had enough and fired a ki blast at Naruto. The ball of energy just bounced off him and into the sky as if he were a ping-pong paddle. How? Stuttered Door, still trapped. You did it wrong, stated Naruto, still bored looking at Cooler. At this close of a range, a ki blast can still be deflected by a fast enough opponent. That's why you should use a ki wave. Naruto then lifted his hand, placing it on Door's face, still not looking at him. Like this. A blinding gold-colored light was emitting from Naruto's hand. Ah! Door yells as he's vaporized. Not even blinking at the fact that one of his men was just killed, Cooler spoke. You're not like normal Saiyans. Yay, I'm still breathing, countered Naruto with a smirk. And you're funny, said Cooler, hoping he could take his frustrations out on this Saiyan. Not as funny as the hole in that guy's chest though, Naruto stated as he pointed a thumb at Knees. Tall red goon. Immediately everyone looked over at him but were confused when there wasn't a hole in his chest. Knees himself was still looking at his chest when a ki beam blew through him from his backside. He dropped to the ground instantly dead. As he fell, everyone saw another Naruto standing behind him. The other Naruto then vaporized the body with a ki wave and disappeared in a poof of smoke. Shadow clone. But how? He was sealed, were the thoughts of Tsunade and Co. Salsa and Cooler were shocked by this. He's strong. Who is this guy? Thought Cooler, but before he could ask his name again, Salsa fired a ki wave at Naruto. After about a minute, the dust from the attack cleared. Naruto stood there unharmed, looking even more bored. If you're gonna look stupid, at least have more style when attacking. Like this, said Naruto, holding his right hand up and out like a gun. Bang, Naruto said, and Salsa blow up, literally. Cooler, who had just watched this unknown Saiyan come and kill his 3 strongest henchmen in less than a few minutes, was impressed. What your name, Saiyan? He asked once again. It's Naruto Uzumaki, weird purple thing floating in the air, Naruto answered. Now Cooler was really interested, having recognized the name. Oh, I see. So, you are one of the Saiyans that defeated Frieza. The one who terrorized his base with childish pranks for weeks then blew it up. You also stole his diary and read it aloud during your fight. I want that, by the way. Cooler listed off. Yeah, that sounds like something Naruto would do, were Tsunade and just about everyone else's thoughts. And you're Frieza's brother, Cooler, who caught him slapping the ham to, dude. That's my cock, said Naruto, holding in a giggle. Cooler grinned. He was mad for weeks when I told the whole ship about that, said Cooler. It's too bad I had to kill you, it would probably be fun to have you around. Oh well, said Cooler, getting into his battle stance while still floating in the air. Yay, I know what you mean, said Naruto, getting into his own stance. His ability to make anyone like him has gotten better, I see, thought Tsunade, sweat dropping at the conversation. Naruto then powered up, gaining a blue aura that looked like flames. He launched himself at the taller alien. Naruto's flames of youth are actually showing. Guy-sensei. This is amazing, shouted Lee. Whatever that power is, it isn't chakra. It's the same power those aliens use, said Neji, looking at Naruto with his Byakugan activated. What do you mean, Neji? Is it the Kyuubi? Asked Tsunade, a bit worried. No, it's nothing like the Kyuubi's chakra. As a matter of fact, there's no trace of the Kyuubi's chakra anywhere in Naruto. At all, answered Neji. Now Tsunade was scared. She knew that even if the Kyuubi was fully absorbed, there were supposed to be traces of it in Naruto's own chakra until he died, thus taking the Kyuubi with him. Naruto was never supposed to absorb all of it. No human body could handle all of it without deteriorating. That because Naruto-chan wiped the Kyuubi from existence, said Fukasaku, making himself known again. What do you mean? Asked Tsunade, as she and everyone was interested in hearing this. Naruto-chan killed the Kyuubi but not by using the seal. You see, Naruto needed to become stronger to beat a deadly foe. So, to do it had to regain his full strength, explained Fukasaku. What do you mean, why couldn't he use his full strength? Asked Neji. Naruto-chan had actually never had his full strength. 80% of his potential was being used to keep the Kyuubi locked away since his birth and sealing, even after the Kyuubi had been absorbed. Truthfully, all the absorption did was removing the foxes personally from his thoughts. He still couldn't call the chakra his own. Anyway, in order to get his full strength, Naruto had to defeat the Kyuubi in battle. But how? The Kyuubi is invincible, said Tsunade, and all the sensei agreeing with her. No, he's not. The Kyuubi was just stronger than anyone on this planet, but there are much stronger people out in the universe. One of them being the man Naruto-chan and his friend Goku-chan defeated. That man Cooler's younger brother, Frieza, finished Fukasaku, turning back to the battle. If this Frieza guy was stronger than the Kyuubi, what would that make his older brother? Asked Kakashi. From what Naruto-chan said, Cooler is the stronger of the two, the Toad answered. So what are the chances of Naruto winning? Asked Kurenai with no small amount of concern. Naruto-chan will win, even though he didn't have to fight Frieza in the end. Goku did it by himself, answered Fukasaku. So what makes you think he can win if he technically didn't even fight this Frieza guy? Asked Kakashi. Annoyed with all the questions, Fukasaku answered, because Naruto-chan is stronger than Goku-chan. If this Frieza guy was stronger than the Kyuubi, what would that make his older brother? Asked Kakashi. From what Naruto-chan said, Cooler is the stronger of the two, the Toad answered. So what are the chances of Naruto winning? Asked Kurenai with no small amount of concern. Naruto-chan will win, even though he didn't have to fight Frieza in the end. Goku did it by himself, answered Fukasaku. So what makes you think he can win if he technically didn't even fight this Frieza guy? Asked Kakashi. Annoyed with all the questions, Fukasaku answered, because Naruto-chan is stronger than Goku-chan. Back at the fight, Naruto and Cooler were staring each other down, looking for an opening. Naruto started it off by charging at Cooler, and sent a punch with his right hand aimed for his head. Cooler blocked with his left hand. Naruto followed up by spinning around kicking at Cooler's ribcage, but he was blocked again by Cooler's right hand. Naruto had expected this and sent a ki blast at Cooler with his left hand, making him go flying back. Cooler quickly recovered and went back at Naruto, and the two began trading blows in the air at such a rapid speed that almost no one could keep up. Back with Tsunade and company. How are they floating like that? Asked Tsunade, but everyone was interested. Naruto-chan learned it during his journey these last 3 years, even I don't know how he does it though. It appears to be a common thing in outer space, answered Fukasaku. How come they're only really using taijutsu? Why not get some distance and use ninjutsu? Asked Kakashi. Because if you haven't noticed from fighting Cooler's henchmen, they're at a level where most ninjutsu are useless. Besides, Naruto-chan himself has given up being a ninja and settled with simply being a warrior. He become a seal master that makes the fourth look like an amateur, but he still uses some ninjutsu though. The little Toad replied. Everyone felt sad at hearing how Naruto had given up being a ninja, but none believed that he could beat the Yondiemi as a seal master. You said flying is a common thing in outer space. Are you saying Naruto been into outer space? Asked Kurenai, shocked beyond belief. Fukasaku smirked at this. Yes, he has. He also helped save a race from destruction and defeated one of the strongest evils in the universe. That's why he's fighting Cooler, stated Fukasaku. Everyone then looked back at Naruto in awe. Even without the backing of the village, Naruto was still making a name for himself. A very big and powerful name. Back at the fight, Naruto and Cooler had been trading blows for several minutes with no clear winner. But then Naruto gained the upper hand with a knee to Cooler's gut, knocking the air out of him. While Cooler was cradling his stomach, Naruto took advantage, sending an uppercut to Cooler's face, lifting him higher in the air. Naruto finished his assault with a roundhouse kick to his upper torso, sending him crashing through several buildings of the evacuated village. Naruto was going toward Cooler's crash zone to start another assault when he had to dodge a ki beam sent his way from Cooler's direction. The beam missed his body but caught his braid, searing away half the strands, holding it to the base of his skull. What the fuck, dude? Do you know how long it takes to grow and braid my hair? Goddammit. Naruto screamed as he took out a kunai and cut the rest of his hair off, making it look a little longer than it was after he came back from his training trip with Jiraiya. His outburst caused everyone on the ground to sweat drop and facepalt. Naruto, was the thoughts of everyone gathered. The distraction of having his hair messed up caused Naruto to be unprepared for Cooler to appear in front of him and kick him in the face, sending him through a couple building in the opposite direction in the same manner Cooler had. When the debris cleared, Naruto stood on the remains of a destroyed building with a 1,000-watt grin on his face. It would have been 1 million if he had known that the rubble was the construction projects the council had pushed through. You're pretty strong. I could see where my brother would have a problem with you. Now, Cooler got back into his battle stance. Show me that power you used to defeat Frieza, said Cooler. Gladly, Naruto said with a bright gleam in his eyes as he disappeared from Cooler's sight. Back with Tsunade and company. This is beyond any fight I have ever seen. How are they even moving that fast? I can't tell who's winning, said Tsunade. It takes a bit to get used to, and Naruto-chan has the upper hand right now, by the way. As for the speed, what do you expect from two of the strongest warriors in the universe? I managed to see the fight against Frieza and this speed is crawling in comparison. Naruto-chan and Cooler are still warming up, but Cooler is getting frustrated, explained Fukasaku. Sasuke stands there with his fists clenched into a ball. I will have your power as my own Dobi. I've beaten you before and will do it again, then I will use that power to bring this world to their knees. Back to the fight. Cooler and Naruto were trading blows again, but Naruto had the upper hand. Neither was tiring though. At the moment Naruto was sending Cooler flying on a large ki blast, then once it was a ways away, he blew it up by send a smaller but faster ki blast to collide with it. When the smoke from the explosion cleared, Cooler was looking a little scuffed, but other than that he was okay. He looked up at Naruto, who was at a slightly higher altitude than himself, and smiled. Yes, you are impressive for the so-called Super Saiyan, but that level of power shouldn't have been enough to defeat Frieza. Anyway, you have impressed me enough that I will show you something that I've never shown anyone else, said Cooler smirking. Oh, and what's that? Naruto said casually, but on the inside really interested. As you may know from fighting Frieza, this is my 4th form, but what you don't know is that I have another transformation after this, said Cooler. What? Said Naruto, but Cooler had already started transforming. Back with Tsunade and company. What the hell is Cooler doing now? Asked Tsunade worried. He said something about having another transformation and started to change, said Kiba. He must have another transformation, said Fukasaku a little worried, but he knew that Naruto hasn't started to go all out yet. Transformation? That's not possible. What's this transformation do? Said Tsunade. Well, Frieza had 3 different transformation, each much stronger than the last, replied Fukasaku, ignoring the part about transformations being impossible. Do you think Naruto-kun can still win though? Asked Hinata with a touch of concern in her voice. I hope so, or this whole planet is doomed, said Fukasaku. This statement caused almost everyone to gasp. Back to the fight. Both fighters had landed to face off, had finished his transformation into a huge form with a face mask and head crest. Cooler looked at Naruto. Time to die, Cooler said as he jumping off the ground, causing it collapsing all around him. Naruto moved to the sky to avoid Cooler, thinking he still had a speed advantage over him. Naruto was shocked beyond understanding when he was kneed from the side, slamming him through several houses. Skidding to a stop, Naruto finally looked up to see who his assailant was, to find Cooler, with his knee still dug in his chest. Oh, crap, I almost lost consciousness from the sudden hit, but I can't stop now, he thought, though in pain. Naruto wasn't going to take this attack with no response. Before Cooler could react, Naruto fired a ki blast at his face, sending the alien flying back. It didn't take long for Cooler to recover from the ki blast because it didn't really hurt at all, but the follow-up punch to the right side of his head did. Cooler was skidding across the ground but quickly rolled to his feet, just in time to block another punch from Naruto. Damn, he was still holding back. That punch hurt more than that blast did. Minor damage though, thought Cooler. Before Naruto could throw another attack, he was smacked in the side by Cooler's tail, sending him crashing through more buildings. Damn it, I forgot the tail, Naruto thought. Before Naruto hit the ground, he managed to look up in Cooler's direction only to see a fist coming towards him. Unable to do anything, Naruto was punch and send flying further. Having enough of being punched through buildings, Naruto threw a ki blast at Cooler to slow him down and used his ki to stop himself. Cooler easily dodged the blast but was forced to block by another punch aimed for his head. Before Naruto could continue with another attack, Cooler kneed him in the stomach, dropping him to his knees gasping for air, then kicked him in the face, sending him flying again. Still flying away, Naruto threw another ki blast at Cooler, but much bigger this time. Cooler smacked it away like it was nothing. "Is this the best you have, Super Saiyan?" yelled Cooler, contempt clear showing through in his voice. "No, this is," said Naruto, powering up a large Rasengan. Back with Tsunade and company. Tsunade and the others had relocated to the top of the Hokage mountain so they could watch the battle and not get caught in the crossfire. They were joined by several ninja and civilians that helped evacuate the village at the beginning of the attack. "What is that?" Tsunade asked as she pointed to the attack forming in Naruto's hands. "I don't know. I've never seen him use that attack before," said Fukasaku. "Hopefully, it can do the trick because the Dobi is taking a beating down there," said Sasuke, laughing on the inside at the thought Naruto might be seriously hurt or killed soon. "Well, that may be true, but he's still holding back," replied Fukasaku, shocking everyone. "What? If he can beat him, why not beat him right away instead of letting more of the village get destroyed?" asked Tsunade. "After getting to know Naruto-chan again after these last few years, I can give you 3 reasons. 1. He's trying to get a full scope on Cooler's power. 2. It's more fun this way, and 3. He doesn't care about property damage," explained Fukasaku, chuckling at the looks on everyone's faces. Excuse me for interrupting, but could you tell the rest of us who that is fighting the weird creature that's attacking our village?" asked one Iruka Amino. That's when the group turned around to find most of the village ninja and a few shinobi council members and the elder advisors. Sighing, Fukasaku began to repeat what had told Tsunade and company not too long ago. Back to the fight. Naruto had just finished powering up the Rasengan and Cooler was waiting patiently. "I hope you're ready, Rasengan," yelled Naruto as he shot it at Cooler. When it hit Cooler, it exploded, creating a tornado of monstrous proportion, pulling debris from the village into it. While this was going on, Fukasaku had just finished his story as everyone turned to see Naruto's attack hit Cooler. Back with Tsunade and company. "The attack is so destructive," said Kakashi. Both eyes wide with shock. "Just about everything in Naruto-chan's arsenal is. I'm pretty sure that if he wanted to he could easily blow up the planet," said the old toad, making several people's eyes go wide at the idea of someone with that type of power. "And just think, that was the child that the civilian council and elder advisors got banished because they thought he was a hazard to the village," said Hiyashi Hyuga, making everyone turn to look at the 2 elder advisors, with disgust and anger, both of whom now wanted to go jump in a snake pit covered in dead mice for making the boy leave. Back to the fight. When the Rasengan aftermath was over and dust cleared, Naruto's eyes widened in disbelief. In the center of the debris, unscathed except for a few bruises, cuts, and scrapes, was Cooler, just as he had been before the attack. "It's that it, Super Saiyan?" he asked. "No fucking way," was all Naruto could get out. The next thing Naruto knew was that Cooler was gripping him by the neck and pushing him through building after building until he was slammed into the Hokage mountain right under the faces. Afterward, Cooler released Naruto's neck and slammed a knee into his gut, making Naruto cough up blood. He then fell from the mountainside onto the ground below, only to be covered by broken rocks from the crash into the mountain. Cooler floated back to the sky to get an overview of the village. "Is this all you got, Super Saiyan? Pathetic. If Frieza was defeated by you, he deserved to be beaten. Ha ha ha," he yelled. Back with Tsunade and company. "How did he not get hurt by that attack?" asked Ino. "Is there any way to beat that monster?" questioned Sakura, everyone wondering the same thing. No one saw Fukasaku's smirk or Naruto rise from the debris unhurt. Back to the fight. Naruto stood dusting himself off like he had just walked through a dust cloud. When he finished, he looked at Cooler, who was still laughing with his head thrown back. "Okay, that's enough playing around," Naruto said, getting the attention of Cooler and the people on the mountain. "What are you talking about?" said Cooler, thinking the Saiyan was bluffing. "Come on, you don't think you're the only with a transformation, do ya?" he asked, wanting to draw out the suspense a little bit longer. "What transformation?" Cooler asked, confused, thinking that Naruto was going to transform into his ape form. Okay Cooler, I think it's time you see what a real Super Saiyan is, stated Naruto with all the confidence in the world. Aren't you already a Super Saiyan? You mean that giant ape transformation? Please what use it that gonna do you? Asked Cooler, thinking that Naruto was wasting his time. Ah! Screamed Naruto as began to powering up to his Super Saiyan form, a gold flame-like aura appearing around him. His hair starting to spike more and get slightly longer. Back with Tsunade and company. What's a Saiyan? I've heard him refer to Naruto as one several times? Asked Tsunade. Well, from what I've heard from Naruto-chan, the Saiyans were a warrior alien race from planet Vegeta. But their planet was destroyed by Frieza about 28 or 29 years ago, said Fukasaku. But what does that have to do with Naruto? He's not even 21 yet and he was born here, said Tsunade. Fukasaku then gave them a brief summary of Minato and Kushina's heritage and how they got to this planet. To say that the gathered audience was shocked that Naruto was not only a prince on one planet but also one from Whirlpool would be an understatement. So Naruto is over half Saiyan, but what's a Super Saiyan? She asked. There's a legend that about 3,000 years ago, there was a Saiyan who had unrivaled power. He was considered the first Super Saiyan, but he was said to be destroyed by his own power. Until recently there was only one other person that was even close to that power level. That was Naruto's grandmother, but she wasn't quite there. To my knowledge, there hasn't been anyone that reached that level or higher since then, well until Naruto-chan and Goku-chan did. Heck, the Saiyans that were considered elite was only about as strong as a high Jonin. A couple had gotten close to cage level, but those were only found within the royal family for the most part, he replied. Before any more question could be asked, they were interrupted by an explosion. Everyone turned back to the fight only to stare wide-eyed at Naruto, and for most of the girls to drool. Back to the fight. Cooler, after seeing the transformation, had gotten an unpleasant feeling in the pit of his stomach. Naruto stood there looking at his enemy with pupil-less emerald eyes, totally devoid of any emotions, the reflection of a true warrior. His golden brows knitted together as a show of anger. The expression almost making him look like a different person. Naruto's hair had lengthened and grown spikier on the top of his head but swept back slightly. Most of the spikes had risen from the cut-off portions of his hair. He still had his normal bangs, but there wasn't a trace of any color except for a dark golden blonde color. His golden tail twitched in annoyance and muscles had become larger and much more defined, making his form-fitting tank top and mesh shirt become skin-tight. So you change your hair. What difference is that gonna make? I'm the strongest being in the universe. Now die arg. Cooler was interrupted by a knee finding its way to his stomach. A shockwave blasting out around them, causing the very mountain to shake from the impact. He looked up to find the knee belonged to Naruto. Before he could speak, Naruto gripped him by the throat with fingers made of steel. Release me, you monkey, croaked out Cooler as he punched Naruto in the face. Naruto didn't even flinch. His face still showing no emotion, and having not said a word, Naruto kicked Cooler, who was still in his grip, in the stomach, sending him flying towards the forest. He then took off after him. Back with Tsunade and company. So that's a Super Saiyan, said Guy, who had been unnaturally quiet. He's easily picking him apart, said Lee, too, being quiet. Siksi, said a drooling Ino, Anko, Hinata and the rest of the assembled girls almost in a zombie-ish way. Several of the girls and women present nodding in agreement, causing several guys to groan in annoyance as they turn back to the battle. Back to the fight. Naruto had for the last better half of a minute beaten Cooler to a purple bloody pulp, and now he was slowly walking toward him without a care in the world. I wonder if I can instant transmission to get to Earth from here. I might try it after I finish Cooler, he thought. Then Cooler got his second wind, or the pain had stopped. He didn't know, he was too loopy to truly tell. Anyway, he started off the biggest ki blast barrage no to man, or whatever the hell he was. Naruto simply kept walking, not even bothering to dodge the assault. Explosions hitting his chest, but most of the blasts flew off his chest and impacted the walls of the village and some of the surrounding forest, causing explosion after explosion. Cooler thought it was working until an unscathed Naruto walked out of the barrage in front of him, causing him to stop the assault in complete shock. Before he could act, he was dropped to his knees for what felt like the 100th time that day, by a fist twisting into his chest knocked the air from his lungs. The pain was like nothing he had ever felt before in his life. Looking up, he was met with the sole of a boot sending him skidding across the ground further from the village. Getting to his feet, "Damn you, monkey," he yelled, throwing a ki wave at Naruto. When the blast cleared, Naruto noticed that Cooler was gone from his previous position, then he heard a voice. "Up here, monkey," he heard. Looking up, he found Cooler floating high above the village, holding over his head a ki blast about 3 times his own size. It was the same attack that Frieza used on Goku that pushed him into Namekian Ocean before he could knock back into the air with a strong right cross. Doesn't he get tired of doing the same thing? He's as bad as his brother, he thought. "You think you can survive this one?" Cooler yelled. "I'm pretty sure I can." Goku did when Frieza hit him with the same attack. "What about you though?" Naruto replied as his mischievous smirk returns to his face. "Huh?" Cooler responded, confused. Naruto then points into the sky behind Cooler. Cooler immediately turns his head to look. Shaking his head, Naruto thinks he actually fell for the oldest trick in the book. My god, this guy is a moron. Seeing this, Naruto quickly fires a small ki blast into the larger one in Cooler's hand. Cooler never even noticed. Finding nothing behind him, he turns back to Naruto for an explanation. Before he can speak, he notices a glow coming from the attack in his hand. He looks at it to see it becoming unstable. He then looks from the orb to Naruto. Naruto holds his hands out and shrugs, giving him an "I don't know" expression. He looks back at the blast again, then back to Naruto with an expression that clearly said, "What the fuck, man?" The ki blast exploded while still in Cooler's hand, causing Cooler to scream in agony. When the smoke from the attack cleared, we find a much burnt and very angry Cooler. "To hell with this planet. I'm blowing it and you into space dust," he yelled. The second that statement left Cooler's mouth, all indication of amusement left Naruto's face. Cooler raised his hand to charge his final attack, but then he heard a click behind him. That's when he realized that Naruto had vanished from his sight. Looking behind him, he finds Naruto about 5 feet away, taking his right hand down from the sword sheathed on his back. Jumping back a few feet, the white and purple alien raises his hand again to start the attack over, only for his hand to fall off at the wrist. Seeing this, Naruto's smirk returns. Cooler then watches as the end of his tail falls off. "What the hell have you done to me, you monkey?" he yells at Naruto. "It's called Sen Shunsai. 1000// It's one of my own creations. I've cut you up so fast the matter that makes up your limbs hasn't realized it's been separated yet. Give him a minute, it'll get it together or apart," Naruto explains in a nonchalant manner. "Damn you, you won't get away with." Cooler's rant was cut off by his jaw detaching. Cooler's body broke up and fell into a bloody pile of flesh in the center of town. Naruto lands and vaporizes everything with his trusty ki wave. Then he retrieves the large scroll from the clone sent to seal Cooler's spaceship before the fight. Upon retrieving the scroll, he powers down and turns around to see several of the village's ninja and Fukasaku arriving in front of him. "Great job, Naruto-chan," said Fukasaku, pride coming off the old toad in waves. "Thanks, Pa," replied the multicolored-haired Saiyan while he scratched the back of his neck. Giant foxy smile plastered on his face. "You've really come a long way, Gaki. I'm so proud of you," said Tsunade. "Thanks, Baon, it was fun too." "So, what are you gonna do now, Naruto?" asked Shikamaru, curious about his friend's journey. Of course, this question was echoing in the minds of everyone else around. "I don't know. I'm probably going to see how my friend Goku did against Frieza, but first I'm going to go get some Ichiraku ramen. I'm starving." Just then Naruto's stomach makes the loudest growl any had ever heard from the young man. "Wait, Uzumaki-san." Everyone turns to see the elder advisors moving towards the blonde. "We wanted to inform you that your banishment was repealed 6 months after you left the village and your rank was reinstated. We want to offer you a higher rank in your own team," said Koharu, thinking that Naruto was going to accept the chance instantly. Naruto put his finger to his chin to think for a second. A look that only a few would have noticed or known what it meant, among them Iruka Amino, appeared on his face. "I'll think about it," he replied. "You will? What is there to think about?" asked Homura. "Well, because my journey has taught me that I have a lot of things in common with Ero Sennin. I love to travel," switching to his mind before he was clobbered, "and women," he answered. "But don't you still want to become Hokage?" Kakashi has already been selected to be the 6th, but you could easily be the 7th. We might even be able to instate you to the position of 6th if Kakashi turns it down, Homura asked. I learned a long time ago that I only wanted to become Hokage so the villagers would acknowledge me, but I learned that I shouldn't give damn what others think of me and be comfortable with what only I think. Besides, I haven't said no yet. I'll give you an answer in 3 days or maybe 2. No, I might wait about a week, depends on my mood. The two advisors didn't catch the emphasis on Naruto's words, thinking they had him back. Their heads held high and smiles on their faces, both walked away beginning plans to use their new weapon to re-energize the village. Tsunade however did notice the emphasis and knew he was up to something. Naruto then looked at Tsunade knowing she caught what he had said. Well Baan, how about we head for the office and discuss what has happened and what I'm going to do? That same foxy smile that he always used before he sprung one of his pranks plastered to his face. Smiling Tsunade said, sure, let's go discuss what you're going to do here. Naruto made a couple cage bushins and sent them to get some ramen. Naruto walked up to Tsunade and scooped her into his arms, causing a blush to form on her face. He lifted off the ground and flew over the village towards the still intact Hokage tower. Opening the window to let her in, he then landed himself and plopped down in the seat across from hers, placing his boot-covered feet up on the desk. So Bakken, how's things been?
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.